Chapter 662. Boom. A series of booming sounds rang through the world. Although Zhuang Hong's fist did not make contact with the barrier, the pressure he unleashed struck the barrier, causing it to revert back to its original form and tremble slightly. Shi Jingyao raised his hand and covered his mouth with his hand. His eyes were filled with shock. It was indeed awesome. With just a single punch, Voidless Realm's barrier shook and it seemed like it was going to break apart. As expected of a higher-up, Jiang, who was at the side, quietly looked at Zhuang Hong acting cool, and in his mind he was currently thinking. But Zhuang Hong was very satisfied just now. He wanted to show the youngsters how big the gap was. I, Zhuang Hong, am one of the 3 great martial kings of Blue Blaze Star. Zhuang Hong stood up straight and clapped his hands. As long as I make a move, even the strongest barrier will be reduced to ashes. Shi Jingyao almost stood at the side and shouted 666. But he quickly stopped himself and said, "Amazing." When Zhuang Hong heard this, he chuckled. He didn't seem to mind, but he really enjoyed it in his heart. His vanity was satisfied. Voidless Realm's barrier could be seen to tremble slightly, and after a few seconds the trembling stopped. Voidless Realm's barrier concealed itself once again. Zhuang Hong. Shi Jingyao. Jiang smiled and said, "Zhuang Hong, looks like it won't work." This was a good opportunity to taunt Zhuang Hong. Zhuang Hong's complexion turned ugly. How could the barrier not break under his punch? Ha! As Zhuang Hong roared, his body erupted with a spiritual energy that was even more powerful than before. Upgraded version Sky-Killing Fist. The punch seemed to split the world. Shi Jingyao's body was blown backward by the strong wind, and he had no choice but to show his strength to stabilize his body. Boom. Voidless Realm's barrier shook once again. Zhuang Hong heaved a sigh of relief. We will definitely succeed this time. Amazing. Shi Jingyao immediately clapped his hands and shouted. The surrounding guards also followed suit. From the applause one could hear the awkwardness. In just a few seconds, Voidless Realm's barrier disappeared again. Zhuang Hong's face flushed red as he clenched his fists tightly. He was actually able to maintain his original form in the face of his upgraded version of the Heaven Fiend Fist. There isn't even a bit of sign of cracking this. It was unimaginable. Jiang clapped his hands and shouted, "Zhuang Hong, you didn't eat enough this morning, did you?" Zhuang Hong shouted coldly, "I was careless just now. I'm going to be serious this time." "Oh, is it a serious series this time? Then we shall wait and see," Jiang shouted loudly, a mocking smile on his face. Zhuang Hong could feel it. He immediately got into a horse stance and his eyes were solemn. This time he had to break through this damned barrier. How dare he embarrass himself like this? The yellow sand in the desert began to move slowly. With a loud bang, streaks of yellow sand shot into the sky. It was a magnificent sight. The veins on Zhuang Hong's forehead bulged, thick and large. Ultimate version. Sky Fiend Fist. As Zhuang Hong shouted, a huge illusory figure appeared behind him. A huge fist carrying a terrifying aura smashed against the barrier. This time Voidless Realm's barrier trembled violently, and it seemed like Voidless Realm's barrier would shatter at any moment. As for Zhuang Hong, his breathing was a little hurried after using this move. Shi Jingyao looked at it and immediately came back to his senses. He applauded again. Amazing. The guards also hurriedly applauded, their applause filled with helplessness and awkwardness. However, Voidless Realm's barrier did indeed tremble intensely, but 1 minute later the tremble disappeared. This made Zhuang Hong feel uncomfortable. Just what is going on? Shi Jingyao was stupefied. This Voidless Realm's barrier is actually this powerful? Even an expert like Zhuang Hong is unable to break through it? I heard that back then when Ying family attacked Voidless Realm, the barrier broke through it. How did they break through it? Jiang was also a little puzzled. This Voidless Realm's barrier has already surpassed my expectations. For such a backward planet to actually have such a barrier, if I were to take it away, it should be a good thing. Just that, I don't know just how strong the person inside is. Just as everyone was puzzled, a ray of light flashed past. Qing Yutong could be seen wearing a white dress, and she was shockingly beautiful. All of the men on the scene looked at Qing Yutong. There is actually such a woman in this world. Especially Zhuang Hong, this kind of trash planet actually has such an exceptional beauty. If I were to capture her back. Hee hee. Ji Yang deeply wrinkled his brows. He had a bad feeling. This woman is giving me a very familiar feeling, especially the aura between her eyebrows. I feel like I have seen it somewhere before. I have seen quite a lot of beauties, but the number of beauties that are as beautiful as this can be counted with one's fingers. If I must count them, then they should be those two that I met that day. Compared to them, this woman is not inferior at all, and in some areas she is even slightly better than them. Shi Jingyao searched for this woman's information in his mind. I don't recognize this woman at all, and she isn't the Empress either. Qin Yutong was a little angry in her heart. It is precisely because of these people that Big Sister and Big Sister Baiji came over. If not, with my strength I would definitely be able to coax and trick brother-in-law onto the bed and let brother-in-law be comfortable, then I would be able to receive brother-in-law's praise. How great would that be? This group of bastards, they really came at the wrong time, ruining the secret affair between brother-in-law and me. Zhuanghong stood up straight and laughed lightly. Humph. Seems like this barrier is going to be broken soon, to actually send people out to fight. Shi Jingyao shouted out, "That's right." Afterward he clapped his hands again. The guards at the back followed closely behind. Qin Yutong said tenderly, "You all are truly annoying. Just like a fly." Everyone's expression changed. This woman sure has a big tone. To actually describe us as flies. Who are you? Zhuanghong pointed at Qin Yutong and shouted out. Shi Jingyao immediately shouted out, "Quickly report your name, these two are big figures. You can't afford to offend them." Qin Yutong laughed in her heart. Can't afford to offend them? With this powerful brother-in-law backing me up, I will be able to mess with whoever I want to mess with. Young man, don't be so sure of your words. Back then when I was your age I was also indecisive. Qin Yutong smiled towards Shi Jingyao and said with a look of arrogance. Jiang appeared to be much calmer and he asked indifferently, "Young lady, who are you? Who are you from Voidless Realm? Why do you all want to know who I am so much? Is this really important? You all aren't my cup of tea, so I'll gift you all a good person card." Everyone, Zhuanghong was a little angry. When did a woman have the right to lecture me? Seeing that Zhuanghong seemed to be about to make his move, Qin Yutong hurriedly shouted out, "Wait a minute. Before you hit me I want to tell you I am an existence that you cannot afford to offend. You better think twice before you act." Huh. What a joke, I can even afford to offend the heavens. Zhuanghong roared towards the sky with an extraordinary aura. Chapter 663. Qin Yutong pouted her mouth. "Provoking the heavens, you can't even provoke my brother-in-law and big sister." After hearing that, Zhuanghong laughed out loud again. "Brother-in-law? Big sister? Ha ha ha. Call them out, see if I don't hammer them into shit." Qin Yutong looked at Zhuanghong dumbfoundedly, then suddenly clapped her hands. "Damn, you are dead. You actually want to hammer my brother-in-law and big sister into shit. Humph. Of course this old man never lies." Zhuanghong was very arrogant, he even slightly raised his chin, seemingly wanting to prove himself. Qin Yutong looked towards Jiyang and Shi Jingyao. "What about you two?" Jiyang didn't speak, feeling very bad. Seeing that Jiyang didn't speak, Shi Jingyao didn't speak as well. Qin Yutong finally understood. Only this person wants to hammer brother-in-law and big sister into shit. Qin Yutong could be seen shouting out loudly, "Brother-in-law, big sister, did you two hear that? He wants to hammer you two into shit." Before Qin Yutong could finish speaking, her head was knocked. Ouch, Qin Yutong pouted her small mouth. "It must be brother-in-law knocking on my head, I really can't hear it." Yi Hua stood behind Qin Yutong along with his two wives. However, when Jiyang and Zhuanghong saw those three familiar figures, their entire bodies stiffened. They even rubbed their eyes to make sure that what was in front of them was not an illusion. Why did they appear here? The entire Milky Way galaxy is so big, there are trillions of planets, how could it be so coincidental to meet them? Shi Jingyao was a bit excited. "Bureau Chief Ji, this is the Empress and the person beside her is her man." Right now Jiyang wished that he could slap Shi Jingyao to death. This man is the heavens. And you still dare to say that he is a stowaway. You must be tired of living. Qin Yutong obediently stood behind Yi Hua, and she even stood behind her big sister to show her status. In actuality, Qin Yutong didn't want to stand side by side with her big sister. "This life is what I like. There is nothing better than having an affair with brother-in-law." Especially when she heard brother-in-law's happy moans, she felt especially satisfied and accomplished. "I heard that you are going to hammer me into shit?" Yi Hua asked faintly. Shi Jingyao didn't seem to have noticed the change in the two of them. and he was extremely excited. Voidless Realm should be finished today. However, before Shi Jingyao could react, Ji Yang and Zhuang Hong knelt down without hesitation. Seeing his chief bureau chief kneel, Shi Jingyao was confused. What was going on? Why did Xiao kneel? Why was that? Ji Yang lowered his head, cold sweat dripping from his forehead. He had really seen a ghost today. He had actually encountered such a 1 in a trillion chance. Zhuang Hong was even more afraid. He had just said that he would beat them into shit. It was over. It was all over. Shi Jingyao was confused and didn't dare to move. He quickly copied Ji Yang and obediently knelt down. When the guards behind them saw their boss kneeling, they hurriedly knelt down and didn't dare to raise their heads. Looking at the situation, Yi Hua sneered and said faintly, "No matter what, you all are my guests. Coming to my territory and giving me such a big greeting doesn't seem to be appropriate, right? Great Supreme Sir, we didn't know that you lived on this planet." Ji Yang's voice was trembling a little. He was extremely terrified. The things that happened in the past were still vivid in his mind. Facing the man in front of him, he couldn't bring himself to resist at all. Shi Jingyao, who was kneeling on the side, widened his bell-like eyes. "Supreme Sovereign. This man is a Supreme Sovereign. In my files he is only D rank or E rank. From the looks of it, my information is wrong. I am finished this time. I still wanted to take down Voidless Realm. I am going to die. If I am able to escape from this calamity today, I, Shi Jingyao, will burn incense and pray to Bodhisattva every day." Yi Hua asked lightly, "What if I knew? If I knew, I definitely wouldn't have come to disturb your cultivation. I deserve to die." Ji Yang begged for mercy again and again. In his heart he was cursing Zhuang Hong and Shi Jingyao. "You only know how to not speak when something happens. Are you mute? Weren't you all very arrogant just a moment ago? That's right, you all deserve to die." Yi Hua's words caused the three to swallow their saliva. "As long as this man says it, we definitely won't be able to escape." After pausing for a while, Yi Hua said again, "I am also not the kind of person who would willfully kill the innocent." Everyone, even the three women who were standing at the back, were about to faint. This sentence of his is really too much. He is too good at acting. Being unrivaled is so lonely. Yi Hua sighed. Everyone was completely speechless. "Damn it, I also want to be unrivaled." "If you don't want to be unrivaled, why don't you give it to me? Qin Yutong likes brother-in-law when he is like this. I really want to press brother-in-law down on the bed and rub myself against brother-in-law." Qin Ya and Dong Huang Baiji were helpless. Yi Hua likes to be like this. They are unable to stop him. After sighing for a while, Yi Hua asked gravely, "How do you all plan to settle this matter today?" Ji Yang's heart sunk. "This is a very difficult question. If I answer it well, I will be able to live. If I answer it badly, I will die." Without waiting for Ji Yang to speak, Zhuang Hong hurriedly shirked the responsibility. "Great Supreme Sovereign, it was all him. He was the one who was in charge of this operation, and we were merely helpers who didn't know what was going on." "Is that so?" Yi Hua looked towards Ji Yang and asked. Ji Yang's lungs were about to explode from anger as he pointed at Zhuang Hong and scolded, "Bullshit, you were clearly the one who wanted to come. And now you are actually saying that it was me. Don't you have any face? Great Supreme Sovereign, please believe me, my loyalty towards you can be witnessed by heaven and earth." Zhuang Hong clenched his fist and placed it on his chest. This was the greatest etiquette in Blue Blaze Planet. Qingye took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. "But just now, I heard that someone wanted to beat me into sh*t. How are you going to settle this?" Zhuang Hong knelt a few steps forward, then hurriedly explained, "It was my fault. It was a slip of the tongue." Zhuang Hong could be seen raising his hand and slapping his own mouth. His slap was very heavy. Every slap made a pa-pa-pa sound, and even his teeth were slapped off by himself. Right now Zhuang Hong was only slapping his teeth off, but if a Supreme Sovereign were to come, that would be asking for his life. Thus Zhuang Hong slapped his face with great care, and his entire face was slapped swollen. Yi Hua didn't shout for Zhuang Hong to stop, and Zhuang Hong continued slapping his face. "Who are you?" Yi Hua didn't pay attention to Zhuang Hong and asked Shi Jingyao. Shi Jingyao was really frightened right now. Although General Manager Ji doesn't fear Zhuang Hong, he is still very careful around him. But looking at how Zhuang Hong is right now, I don't dare to lie at all. Shi Jingyao lowered his head and said, "Respected Supreme Sovereign, I am the director of the Time and Space branch that is stationed on Earth, Shi Jingyao." Time and Space Branch. That time when I was at Blue Blaze Planet, I seem to have seen the Time and Space Branch recruiting people, right? Yi Hua mumbled. Chapter 664. Oh, so you are the General Bureau Chief, then he is your little brother. What are you here for this time? Yi Hua felt that this was too mystical. The jurisdiction of this Blue Blaze Planet is really surprisingly big. Replying to your honor, this time I am here to inspect the branches of each planet. Then why did you come to my place? Yi Hua asked faintly. Jiang said respectfully, my subordinate said that Voidless Realm is this planet's strongest power, and there are stowaways hidden in there. Zhuanghong asked me to come over and help my subordinate solve the problem, which is why I disturbed your honor's cultivation. Hearing what Yi Hua said, Shi Jingyao's face turned ashen. Even his legs that were kneeling down became a bit soft. Who is the stowaways hidden in Voidless Realm? Yi Hua asked lightly. Jiang didn't dare to say much, but since his honor asked, not saying anything would make him even more miserable. It is you, the great supreme overlord. Jiang said softly as if he didn't dare to speak loudly. And how did you know that I am a stowaways? Yi Hua looked towards Shi Jingyao. Shi Jingyao's eyes revealed out deathly aura, and unknowingly he said, there is information on all stowaways. I will monitor them. Monitor? Is the hot pot restaurant outside of my bar your people? Yes. Shi Jingyao didn't dare to lie at all and told the truth. However, the three women behind him were very confused. Yi Hua is a stowaways. What does this mean? Could it be that Yi Hua is a foreigner? Then why don't I see any trace of a foreigner? Yi Hua finally knew who was monitoring him. So it is the people from this Time and Space Branch. This is really unexpected. I didn't even notice it a few years ago. Your monitoring skills are pretty good. Yi Hua said lightly. This was his affirmation towards Shi Jingyao's work. To be able to escape my eyes, I should feel honored. Shi Jingyao hurriedly begged for forgiveness. Great Supreme Overlord, I didn't know. Please forgive my crime. This is all work. It is inevitable that there will be casualties. Bureau Chief Ji, am I right? How would Jiang dare to say that he was wrong? Even if you say that poop smells good, I have to say that poop smells good too. Supreme Holy Light, please forgive my ignorance. Jiang only wanted to save his own life. He didn't have the time to care about the others. Even if he wanted to save them, he couldn't. Zhuanghong was still slapping himself. His face was covered in blood, but he did not dare to stop. Yi Hua flicked the ash in his hand, and the ash slowly fell onto the yellow sand. Along with a gust of wind, the ash disappeared without a trace. Bureau Chief Ji, how do you think we should deal with them? Yi Hua asked in a deep voice. I, the Supreme Overlord, would never willfully kill the innocent. Jiang rejoiced inwardly, but he didn't show it. He said in a deep voice, committing such a serious crime can only be washed away with death. Are you saying that they should all die? Yi Hua asked curiously. This kind of rule is really strict, to be able to use death to cleanse one's mistakes at the drop of a hat. On the other hand, the Supreme Overlord is much more benevolent. If a subordinate makes a mistake, at most the Supreme Overlord would just scold them. Look at them, they died immediately. Jiang nodded. Yes. Shi Jingyao, who was at the side, was completely paralyzed on the yellow sand, and there wasn't any color on his face at all. Today I came to get rid of Voidless Realm, but I didn't expect that before I even entered Voidless Realm, I would have to die on this yellow sand. Zhuanghong, who was at the side, stopped slapping himself, and with bloodshot eyes he stared fixedly at Jiang. F***K. You traitor. Zhuanghong. In front of the Supreme Overlord, you better show some respect. Right now Jiang also knew how to flatter. Truly, when one is under the eaves of another, one has no choice but to lower one's head. You traitorous dog, I am going to fight you to the death. Zhuanghong already knew his fate today. Although I don't dare to take action against the Supreme Overlord, I can still take action against Jiang. Even if I am going to die, I am going to drag you along with me. Yi Hua didn't pay attention to Zhuanghong and continued watching them fight. Zhuanghong had just consecutively punched himself 3 times and slapped himself for such a long time. His stamina and spiritual energy had long been unable to keep up, and his strength was greatly reduced. Right now he was only able to use half of his usual strength. Meanwhile, Jiang was at his peak condition. Before Zhuanghong could even finish his 3 moves, he was already bound by Jiang. Jiang, I will remember you, and I will be waiting for you in hell. Knowing that he was going to die, Zhuanghong didn't have anything to be afraid of. Scolding the Supreme Overlord sure feels great. It wasn't like he had never been scolded by others before. In the past, scolding others when you can't win against them was a common problem of humans. Then I might have to disappoint you. I am in charge of hell. You. Zhuanghong couldn't even think of any words to threaten Yihua anymore. Jiang took out a white revolver that was emitting out a faint orange light. With just a look, one could tell that the revolver was not an ordinary weapon. Soul Destroyer gun. Zhuanghong cried out in surprise. Yihua slightly raised his hand, and the silver muzzle of the revolver was pointed at Zhuanghong's forehead. A terrifying aura was emitted out from the muzzle of the revolver. Zhuanghong, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for angering the great Supreme Overlord. Jiang, you bastard, I will not let you off. Jiang didn't say anything else. His index finger lightly pressed down on the revolver and the revolver could be seen spinning. Bang! A gunshot rang out on the yellow sand, and a bloody hole could be seen appearing on the center of Zhuanghong's forehead. With unwillingness and indignation in his eyes, Zhuanghong slowly fell onto the ground. After dealing with Zhuanghong, Jiang walked to Shi Jingyao's side and slowly pointed at the back of Shi Jingyao's head. Shi Jingyao was badly frightened as he begged, "Please spare my life, Supreme Overlord, I really didn't know that it was you. General Manager Ji, all these years, even if I didn't have any meritorious deeds, I have still worked hard, can you please plead for me? Go on properly." Jiang didn't say anything else and lightly pressed down on Shi Jingyao's head with his finger. Bang! Shi Jingyao powerlessly fell onto the yellow sand, and that widened gaze of his was filled with unwillingness and deep regret. Not only that, Jiang continuously killed all of the guards behind him. He was indeed very vicious. After finishing everything, Jiang hurriedly knelt down, because he knew that it was very possible that the Supreme Overlord would kill him. However, what he did just now was to hope that the Supreme Overlord would spare him once. Although the hope was very slim, he still had to give it a try. Yihua pondered for a moment. If I were to kill all of them, it seems a bit inappropriate. Although I have offended the Supreme Overlord, this kind of punishment seems to be more or less enough. It is also good to let one of them go back and report the situation. Don't make it seem like I don't know what happened. You can go back. Yihua said faintly. He decided to let Jiang go. Jiang was exalted. Seems like my gamble was correct. Thank you, Supreme Overlord, for not killing me. Jiang spread out his arms and bowed. Yihua waved his hand, indicating that Jiang could scram now. Looking at Jiang like this is annoying. I hate people who admit defeat before even fighting. How would Jiang dare to stay for another step? He immediately turned around and prepared to leave. Chapter 665. Wait. The smile on Jiang's face froze. What was going on? The Supreme Exalt had spared him, but wouldn't his wife have done the same to him? That didn't seem to be a problem. Xianxia asked, "What do you mean by stowaways?" Jiang felt that his heart couldn't take it anymore. He was almost scared to death. "Madam, stowaways mean transmigrating or being reborn in another plane. This is against the laws of space. The existence of the Space Administration is to protect the laws." Jiang bowed slightly and said. Xianxia had thought that Yihua came from overseas. I didn't expect that his background would be so big, to actually be a transmigration or a rebirth, to the point that even till today I still haven't mentioned it. If this person didn't mention it, did he not intend to tell us? Donghuang Baiji was also very depressed. My husband actually didn't tell me about such a big matter. He definitely doesn't trust me. The two wives secretly pinched Yihua's waist. Seeing this, Jiang immediately turned around and left. He couldn't look. If he looked too much, he would be silenced. Speaking of which, it was fortunate that Jiang ran away quickly. Yihua indeed had the intention to kill Jiang to silence him. The embarrassing state of a Supreme Overlord must not be known by anyone. When I return, I have something to ask you. Xianxia said faintly. Yihua let out a light sigh. Seems like there are still some things that I have to tell them. That tragic life of hers is truly pitiful. The reason why I didn't tell you all is for your own good, lest you all love me too much. Qing Yutong left first, but she gave Yihua a deep gaze. Next time I have to tell this story to Yutong alone. Now that his wife and sister-in-law were together, Yihua felt an indescribable excitement in his heart. This kind of feeling is truly great. However, he still had to tell them a little about himself. Should he reveal himself in front of them? I think it's better if I don't. That face is a bit too frightening. I'm afraid that you all won't be able to accept it. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji escorted Yi Hua to the bedroom and prepared to interrogate him. And when Yi Hua went back to his room, he couldn't help but sing, "How lonely is it to be invincible? How lonely is it to be invincible? How empty is it to be invincible, to stand at the peak all by myself? The cold wind blows past me unceasingly, my loneliness. Who can understand me?" Qingya, Donghuang Baiji, Yi Hua could be seen being pressed onto a chair by his two wives, then asked, "Tell us, what else did you not tell us?" Sigh. Yi Hua let out a deep sigh, creating a bleak atmosphere. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly, "Yi Hua, stop pretending. Damn, it seems like they know my personality like the back of their hands. This is a very sad story. We have to talk somewhere else." Yi Hua said gravely, and his expression was on point. As expected of the best male lead, he is a first-rate expert when it comes to lying to his wife. Qingya looked at her husband's expression, and upon seeing that her husband wasn't pretending, her heart softened. "Where do you want to go? Let's go to bed." Qingya, Donghuang Baiji. He was indeed a big pervert. He wanted to go to bed and chat in broad daylight. He had ulterior motives. Seeing that his wives didn't seem to be willing, Yi Hua had no choice but to say, "Forget it, I will go out for a stroll." Seeing that her husband was acting shamelessly, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were unable to do anything about it. "Yi Hua, you are a supreme overlord, can you be a bit more serious? It's broad daylight." Donghuang Baiji said tenderly. "Let's talk at night then." The two women were immediately at their wits' end. They wanted to know about Yi Hua's past too much. Did he transmigrate or did he reincarnate? Women's gossipy hearts were burning. "All right, but you can't lie to us anymore." "Hee, I never lied to others." Hee. Yi Hua took the lead and laid on the soft bed. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji took off their clothes and leaned on Yi Hua's side while wearing their pajamas. It is better to not wear clothes when talking about this kind of thing. Yi Hua. Forget it then, let's talk at night. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji almost fainted from anger. Having a husband like this, what else can we do? If you don't go along with what he wants, he will get angry, scold you, and even resort to domestic violence. This is too miserable. The two women only wanted to know about Yi Hua's past. Thus, they didn't say anything and took off their clothes under the blanket. If they want to know about me, how can they not pay a price? Although they can't touch me, they can at least have some fun. Yi Hua. Why are you so dishonest? How could Qingya endure it? Just being touched by Yi Hua was already unbearable. Donghuang Baiji, who was at the side, was the same as well. It has been a long time since the two of them irrigated their flowers. After all, no matter how beautiful a flower is, without someone fertilizing it, it wouldn't be good. Yi Hua said lightly, "Hug me tightly." Seeing that there was a change in their husband's tone, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji went into a slight daze, then subconsciously hugged onto their husband. Feeling his wife's warmth, Yi Hua felt very comfortable. Thinking back to the past, this is a scene that I didn't even dare to think about. Actually, I came from another place. Yi Hua said slowly. This first sentence gave Qingya and Donghuang Baiji a huge shock. I didn't expect that my husband isn't a local. Then are you a transmigrator? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. Yi Hua shook his head. I am a transmigrator. Transmigrator. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji knew what it meant to be a transmigrator. It meant that a transmigrator had died once. No wonder my husband's expression became so miserable, to the point that he didn't even tell me about it. So it turns out that he was afraid that I would be worried and blame Yi Hua wrongly. Deep guilt was released from Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's hearts. The two women hugged onto their husband tightly once again, comforting him mentally. Yi Hua's expression remained the same, but in his heart he was feeling very good. Just by being influenced by me a bit, you two are already like this. If I were to tell you everything, you two would still be obedient to me. If I were to learn from you Tong and do it to me, that scene would be so great. The reason why I didn't tell you two is because I was afraid that you two would be worried. Yi Hua continued speaking, bringing the sorrowful atmosphere to the highest point. Lightly hugging onto his wife's shoulders, Yi Hua said gravely, just like the other transmigrators, I was also killed by someone. Not only me, there was also Wei Chong, Lai Gu, Yi Zizi, Brett, Jutian, and 2 more that you two will meet in the future. All of us were killed by someone. Speaking up to hear, a red light flashed past Yihua's eyes. This time he wasn't acting, he was really releasing his killing intent. Even after so many years had passed, that scene would still appear in my dreams sometimes. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji went into a daze. I really didn't expect that Yihua and his subordinates would actually be exterminated. Just what kind of powerful being was able to kill them? Chapter 666. Yihua stabilized his mood. Don't put on a look of wanting to beat and kill in front of my wife, it's not cool at all. I was born in a place called the Kangluo continent. The region there is very large, perhaps the size of Earth, but it is only the size of an empire there. There are all kinds of creatures living there and I am one of them. Yihua felt that there was nothing wrong with what Yihua said. After all, I didn't say that I am a human. In the future it would be more convenient for me to explain things to them, lest they say that I, the Supreme Overlord, lied to them. After all, I never lie. Yihua, where are your parents? Xianxia asked with heartache. I didn't expect that my husband would have such an experience. I really shouldn't have been so willful. I don't have any parents. Yihua laughed at himself. I'm not pretending at all. As an undead, I am just a skeleton that crawled out from the ground. However, since he crawled out of the ground, did that mean that he was once a human but had become an undead? So her husband really didn't have any relatives. Yihua paused for a moment, then said, what I have is only you and the child. Yihua, looking at the heartache expression on his 2 wives' faces, Yihua expressed that he was very pleased. This is exactly the feeling that I want. Heartache, go on, let me see your heartache expression. Yihua, then did you train hard to get to where you are now? Donghuang Baiji asked tenderly. I reckon that Donghuang Li and Yi Yan had already finished listening to Legend of the Skeleton. However, Yihua doesn't mind telling it again. Of course, no one is born a strong martial artist. No, except for Ali and Yan. Speaking of their children, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji revealed a smile on their faces. Ever since I appeared, I've been constantly being hunted down. It's very miserable. Yihua continued to act pitiful, wanting his 2 wives to feel sorry for him. Speaking of which, they had never felt sorry for him before, other than that time when he pretended to be paralyzed. Sure enough, after hearing what Yihua said, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were about to cry. I, the Supreme Overlord, feel so good. This is the rhythm. Let's have something even more explosive. It can't be helped. People are jealous of outstanding people, so they want to kill them in the cradle. But I have always insisted on my belief that one day I will stand out and make those arrogant people pay the price. In the process of becoming stronger, I met with Wei Chong and the others. In actuality, they are also pitiful people. They were abandoned, hated, hunted down, and so on. After we got together, we formed a group, no, a team. I almost wanted to say that it was a girl group, but recently Yu Tong had gotten used to talking about what girl group and so on. We will become stronger together and uphold justice together. Yihua felt that everyone's understanding of justice was different. To him, killing humans was his justice. For humans, killing oneself was also upholding justice. What exactly was justice? Who could say for sure? Yihua's voice gradually became gloomy. However, how can justice be so easily maintained? We were besieged by a group of old men. They joined hands to kill us one by one, and I watched as they fell one by one. There was nothing I could do. I really hate them. This time his expression was a little deliberate and natural. The 2 wives didn't say anything and used their bodies to express their consolation. Fortunately, the heavens didn't let me die and I came back to life here. After that, I met with you. At that time, my emotions were still very unstable, so I ignored you. Do you still hate me? Yihua tightly hugged onto Donghuang Baiji and asked lightly. Donghuang Baiji finally knew the reason. All of this was a misunderstanding. After receiving such a heavy blow, my emotions were definitely unstable. Yihua, I don't blame you. Furthermore, aren't we together now? Donghuang Baiji used her forehead to prop onto Yihua's chin. Donghuang Baiji was very obedient, and she looked a bit like Qin Yutong. Yihua was very gratified as he continued. Then there's Xianxia. My temper isn't very good and I scold people for no reason at all, and I even spank your butts. However, all of my actions are filled with love. So, hitting people can be said to be filled with love. I've learned something. Perhaps it was because they were affected by the atmosphere. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't refute Yihua's words. And they even said obediently, and we know that's why we have always been accommodating to you. Do you two know what my greatest achievement in my life is? Yihua asked. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji slightly raised their heads and looked at their handsome husband. My greatest achievement in my life is not how powerful I am or how pretentious I am, but rather meeting the two of you. If not for the two of you, I wouldn't know what love is. Furthermore, the two of you even gave birth to a child for me. I want to say it has been hard on the two of you. I love the two of you. Hearing their husband's passionate confession, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji's eyes turned red. If I remember correctly, this is the first time Yihua said that he loved us. At this moment I feel that I am so happy. Yihua revealed his true feelings. When the atmosphere was right, some words naturally came out from his mouth. In the past I felt that saying such words would be very arrogant, but right now I feel that saying such words is pretty good. Yihua said faintly, however, I am also a man. I can understand that the two of you are pregnant and don't allow me to touch you, but the two of you should understand. Qingya was also very troubled and she consoled Yihua. After we give birth to our child, can we properly accompany you? Just bear with it for a few more months. Isn't Baiji going to give birth very soon? And after I give birth to our child, I will accompany you. Donghuang Baiji didn't expect that her husband would be so pitiful. If I am still unable to satisfy her husband's small request, I will truly feel very apologetic. What the heck, after giving birth to our child, doesn't that mean that we still have to wait for a few more months? How can that be possible? I have a good idea. Let's settle this matter first. What do you two think? Yihua was a bit excited. If I were to succeed today, I would be able to feel great. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji naturally nodded their heads. Serving your husband is the duty of a wife, even if it means climbing a mountain of swords. You will not hesitate to do so. Yihua whispered a few words into his wife's ears. After Qingya and Donghuang Baiji heard what Yihua said, their entire body became unwell, and they looked at Yihua in disbelief. My husband actually called the two of us like that. Go and die. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji shouted out at the same time, then immediately wore their clothes and ran out of the room. A rosy cloud appeared on Qingya's beautiful face. Yihua was speechless as he laid on the bed. My beautiful dream was shattered into pieces. Look at how the two women acted just now. I, the Supreme Overlord, only made a small request, and the two women actually turned hostile in an instant. This is making me feel very gloomy. From the looks of it, the heartfelt words that I said just now were all fake. From the looks of it, the path that I, the Supreme Overlord, still has a long way to go. However, my sister-in-law is still able to do it. From the looks of it, Yutong is still the best. These two women are too unreasonable. Chapter 667. Ziyang escaped from Earth without any mishap, got onto the spaceship and immediately left the solar system. This was simply too terrifying. Even now his legs were still weak and he felt that he had just walked through the gates of hell and he was scared to death. Sitting on the pilot seat, Ziyang still had to arrange the work on Earth. Since Shi Jingao died, someone has to take over this position. Looking at the name list, Ziyang used his identity to issue an order to let Wu Lu take over the position of bureau chief. After everything was done, Ziyang felt that he needed to sleep to calm down, and think about how he should report the situation when he returned. In fact, it was very simple. I just need to tell the truth. Even if the president hears it, he will tremble with fear and he might even praise my actions. If I really anger that person, the consequences will be even more unimaginable. Wu Lu was currently waiting for the bureau chief to return. He sat on the office chair and slowly turned around. After a long time, he still didn't receive a call from the bureau chief. Suddenly, the computer screen flashed and a message seemed to have popped up. Bored, he hurriedly checked the message. When he saw the appointment of the bureau chief, Wu Lu was completely stupefied. This kind of surprise was not surprise but shock. This kind of appointment can only mean one thing. That means bureau chief Shi is finished. Dead. Otherwise, why would such an appointment appear? And it was so sudden, it must be Voidless Realm. Voidless Realm killed bureau chief Shi. But why is the bureau chief still alive? Just what is going on? Wu Lu didn't understand and he was completely confused. Could it be that even Time and Space Administration can't touch Voidless Realm? This is too shocking. Right now Wang Debao and Bai Cixin were lying on the big bed. Bai Cixin's face was filled with satisfaction, while Wang Debao's face was filled with pride. As long as my wife doesn't use that move, my fighting strength is still very strong. After a long time, Bai Cixin said faintly, I wonder how is that bureau chief sure doing? Wang Debao patted on Bai Cixin's shoulder and said gently, if he succeeds he will definitely give you a call. But it has already been so many days and there is still no news. I keep feeling that something unexpected happened again. Bai Cixin knitted her eyebrows, her eyes were filled with worry. If even Time and Space Administration can't deal with Voidless Realm, then who else can? There is basically no one who can deal with Voidless Realm. I'm afraid that I won't be able to take revenge in this life. I'm not resigned to fate. Wang Debao knew his wife very well, so he suggested, why don't we give her a call? Bai Cixin nodded, picked up the phone on the bedside table and called Zhou Xian. The number that you have dialed is power off. Bai Cixin stared at her phone in a daze. He turned off his phone. Wang Debao sat up and took the phone to make another call. The number that you have dialed is power off. The couple had a bad feeling about this. Something really happened, Bai Cixin muttered. There was a hint of despair in her eyes. Wang Debao quickly picked up his phone. Wife, don't worry. I still have Wu Lu's number. I'll call and ask. Wang Debao quickly found Wu Lu's number and immediately called him. Wu Lu quickly picked up the phone. Who is it? It's me, Wang Debao. Mr. Wang, what can I do for you? Wu Lu asked flatly without any emotion in his tone, as if he was talking to a stranger. Wang Debao asked directly, what's wrong with Director Shi? Why can't I get through to him? Mr. Wang, it's better not to contact him in the future, I'm the director now. After finished speaking, Wu Lu hung up the phone. Hearing the busy tone that came from the phone, Wang Debao's face stiffened a bit. What's wrong? Bai Cixin asked concernedly. Wang Debao shook his head. I'm afraid that Director Shi is already. Wu Lu is the director now. Hearing such news, Bai Cixin's face turned ashen as she laid powerlessly at the side with lifeless eyes. He really died. Even an organization like Spacetime Branch was unable to do anything to Limitless Realm, and even Director Shi died. That Director Shi was able to easily take out such a powerful primordial spirit, yet he still died. If that's the case, I won't be able to move at all. Just a finger from Voidless Realm would be able to kill me. Wang Debao leaned against the bedside table. As a husband, I can't help my wife, and I even made my wife so sad I'm really useless. Deep guilt lingered in Wang Debao's heart. After a long time, Wang Debao said lightly, Wife, let's forget about it, let's not get involved anymore. Voidless Realm's strength is not something that we can control, so many people wanted to bring down Voidless Realm, but in the end they all ended up like this. Bai Cixin did not reply to her husband, and her beautiful eyes stared at the ceiling. Debao, love me properly. After a long time, Bai Cixin raised her head and looked at her husband and said, Wang Debao had a bad premonition. Bai Cixin, what are you trying to do? Bai Cixin laughed lightly. Debao, you understand me, you know what I'm trying to do. Are you crazy? You are courting death. Wang Debao found it unbelievable. My wife is actually going to barge into the tiger's den by herself. Why can't I just live a good life? Revenge breeds revenge. Only by letting go of the resentment in my heart can I live comfortably. Even if I die, I will let Voidless Realm know my attitude. Debao, thank you for accompanying me for so many years. What I am doing is very selfish, and the person I am letting down the most is you. Can you forgive me for being willful this time? Bai Cixin was such a woman, and it could be said that she was the kind of woman who would do anything to achieve her goal. Even if she knew that she was going to die, she still had to use her attitude to express something. If she didn't express her attitude, what was the point of living? Obsession was scary, and a crazy obsession was even scarier. It would make a person not fear death. Just like the current Bai Cixin, in order to speak for me, she was willing to provoke an invincible existence. Wang Debao let out a deep sigh. My wife is very stubborn. Once she decided on something, it would be very hard for her to turn back. In actuality, I don't want to fight for anything. My biggest wish is to live with my wife, give birth to 2 children, watch them grow up, marry a wife or marry someone else and live an ordinary life. This kind of fight is too tiring. However, my wife's thinking is completely different from mine. What she wants is the glory of standing at the top of the clouds. In order to fulfill my wife's wish, I will do my best to help my wife. No matter how unwilling I am, I will still do it. Because everything is worth it. For my wife, I am able to do anything. I will accompany you. Wang Debao laughed lightly. If my wife dies, what is the point of living? After so many years I have already gotten used to her being by my side, gotten used to her being high and mighty. Chapter 668. Bai Cixin smiled. Hubby, let me go alone, I don't want to be a burden to others anymore. Wang Debao pinched his wife's cheek. Are you saying that I'm an outsider? How can you be an outsider? You are the person I love. As the person you love, what's wrong with me accompanying you to a place? We have been together for so long, there should be an end to this, right? Wang Debao spoke of this matter in a relaxed tone which made the atmosphere a lot better. It was not so depressing. Bai Cixin lightly hugged her husband. You can even joke about such a serious matter, I'm really worried. If you're worried, I can stay by your side every day as long as you don't hate me. Why would I hate you? The most successful thing that I, Bai Cixin, have done in my life is marrying you. The scene of Bai Cixin getting to know Wang Debao appeared in her mind, and a slight smile appeared on her face. Wang Debao was very excited. My wife finally confessed to me. Seems like I have to properly comfort my wife. Debao, let's have a child. No problem, I guarantee that I will complete the mission. The husband and wife looked like they were chatting and laughing, but in actuality, they were not willing to show their pain to each other. They were both thinking for each other. If Bai Cixin could let go of the hatred in her heart and live a good life with Wang Debao, that would be a very happy thing. The sky gradually darkened. Wang Debao opened his eyes and realized that the beauty beside him had already disappeared. His heart immediately sank, and without even wearing his pants he opened the door and went out. When he smelled a faint fragrance, Wang Debao was startled. Debao, let's go downstairs to eat. Bai Cixin held on to the dishes that she personally cooked and shouted towards her husband who was upstairs. Okay. Wang Debao was very surprised. My wife rarely cooks, and the number of times that she cooks can be counted with one hand. After wearing his pajamas, Wang Debao looked towards the dining room with a surprised gaze. For dishes and one soup, all of them are my favorite dishes. Bai Cixin carried the rice out, and with an apologetic look on her face she said, Debao, we have been married for so long but I have never cooked a proper meal for you. Am I very bad? Wang Debao didn't say anything and hugged his wife tightly in his arms. His eyes were a little red. No, you are the best woman in the world. It is my honor to marry you. Bai Cixin snuggled into her husband's embrace and felt the warmth of her husband's chest. It was very warm and very comfortable. Bai Cixin really wanted to convince herself not to bother about those things anymore, but I can't let it go. I really can't. After a while, Bai Cixin smiled gently and said, all right, the food is getting cold. I'll let you hug me again tonight. Wang Debao let go of his wife and grinned, but his eyes were red. Looking at her husband's behavior, Bai Cixin's heart was also faintly dying. She had never done anything for her husband in this life. If there was a next life, she would definitely be an obedient wife. His father and Bai Cixin sat at the dining table. Bai Cixin smiled and said, try the stir-fried pork with green peppers I made. I haven't made it in a long time. I hope you won't mind. How could Wang Debao dislike the food? He picked up the bowl of rice and started eating ferociously, and it's delicious. My wife, your cooking skills are too good. In actuality, Wang Debao didn't even know what the food tasted like. Bai Cixin looked at her husband wolfing down the food, and a layer of mist appeared in her beautiful eyes. Her heart was in pain. Hubby, let's go for a walk after we finish eating. It has been a long time since we last went for a walk after eating. Bai Cixin said tenderly and placed some food on her husband's plate. Wang Debao said vaguely, and okay. Let's go to Happy Valley tomorrow then, I want to go on a roller coaster. Bai Cixin supported her chin with both of her hands, seemingly wanting to do all the things that she had never done before. Wang Debao paused for a moment, then said with a smile, all right, we have never been to an amusement park before. Hubby, you won't blame me, right? How would I blame you? You didn't like to go to places like this in the past. You still dare to say that you don't blame me? Bai Cixin pouted her small mouth and acted coquettishly. Wang Debao had never seen his wife act coquettishly before, and he was instantly stupefied. Wife, I was wrong. He'll accompany me properly tomorrow, if not I will get angry. Wang Debao laughed loudly. No problem, I will accompany you properly tomorrow. And eat a bit more. Bai Cixin didn't eat and she kept on putting food into her husband's bowl. Her beautiful eyes were filled with happiness, but more than that, there was an apologetic look in her eyes. I'm sorry, Debao. After dinner, the husband and wife drove to the riverside of Haigang City to take a walk. While enjoying the breeze, Bai Cixin held onto her husband's arm and lightly leaned against him. "Hubby, how about we raise a golden retriever in the future?" Bai Cixin asked. "Wife, I thought that you don't like dogs?" Wang Debao asked curiously. "I suddenly like dogs." Bai Cixin looked at the couple that was holding onto a samyet and taking a walk, and the couple seemed to be very happy. "Then how about we go and buy one right now?" Wang Debao suggested. And, without saying anything further, the two immediately went to a pet shop and bought a little golden retriever. The little fellow was very excited. "I finally have a master." Bai Cixin hugged onto the golden retriever and lightly stroked onto it. "So cute." "It's good that you like it." Wang Debao also stroked onto the head of the golden retriever. The little fellow squinted its eyes, enjoying the stroking. After walking to the street, the husband and wife bought milk tea to drink. Just like any other young couple, there wasn't any difference. "It seems like I haven't bought clothes for a long time," Bai Cixin said. Wang Debao was very smart and he immediately understood what his wife meant. "Let's go to the mall, we'll buy whatever you want." "Hubby, you are so nice." Woof, royal translation. "Big brother, I also want dog food." After arriving at the mall, Wang Debao seemed to have recalled something from the past. "Wife, do you still remember that time when I was chasing after you? I also came here?" "Yes, I remember that you were still acting cool here. It was so funny." Bai Cixin laughed lightly. Wang Debao was very depressed. "How can that be called acting cool? It was obviously someone else who provoked me, okay? Furthermore, wasn't act tough Wang Xiao also chasing after you at that time?" "Then do you know why I chose you in the end?" Bai Cixin asked softly. "Why?" Actually, Wang Debao was also very curious. At that time, act tough Wang Xiao was very strong. He was a big shot. On the other hand, he was only slightly rich and Bai Cixin was so outstanding. Why would she choose him? "Because you are honest," Bai Cixin said softly. In her heart, her husband was very obedient, like a little puppy, basically listening to everything she said, and he also didn't fool around outside. Reality proved that her judgment was correct. Wang Debao was very helpless. "Wife, are you praising me or insulting me?" Chapter 669. Hearing this, Wang Debao felt very comfortable in his heart. For such an outstanding woman like Bai Cixin to feel comfortable for me, this is also a kind of pride. Wang Debao immediately hugged onto his wife's shoulder and said heroically, "Wife, buy whatever you want today." "So generous." Bai Cixin tightly leaned onto her husband, her face brimming with happiness. "If only we could continue living like this." "Of course, you are my wife. If I don't spend money for you, who should I spend money for?" "Husband, I love you." After hearing that, Wang Debao felt very happy. In the past, my wife never said that, but now, after hearing that, I am willing to die. When the surrounding men saw how generous Wang Debao was and then looked at that woman's happy look, they also wanted to imitate Wang Debao, but the money in their pockets. Sigh. Some of the men who brought girls to the mall felt awkward. Compared to that nouveau riche Wang Debao, they are really... On this night, the husband and wife played very happily. After shopping at the mall, they even went to eat supper and even took a walk and chatted late at night. When they returned home, they were filled with endless passion. The golden retriever couldn't bear to watch anymore and hid in a corner while shivering. The morning sunlight is always so warm. Wang Debao rubbed his eyes, then seemed to have thought of something and immediately stretched out his hand to hug. When he touched that soft and tender body, Wang Debao let out a sigh of relief. "I was afraid that Bai Cixin would run away without saying a word and bear everything by myself." "Wife, it's already 8 a.m. Wang Debao shouted lightly. Bai Cixin hugged onto her husband's chest. "Let me sleep for a while more." "Didn't you say that you still want to go to the amusement park today?" Wang Debao pinched onto his wife's nose. "She is truly beautiful and cute." "Let me sleep for another 5 minutes, I beg you." Wang Debao could only hug onto his wife tightly and enjoy the pleasant morning, because he might not be able to enjoy it anymore in the future. However, as long as he can be with his wife, it doesn't matter where he goes. 5 minutes later, Bai Cixin woke up. She is truly a woman who does what she said. "Debao, Xiaobao is taking a dump. Quickly come and clean up." "Oh, coming." The golden retriever was named Xiaobao by the two. Wang Debao didn't mind as long as his wife was happy, it was fine. After the two of them had breakfast at home, Bai Cixin brought Big Treasure and Little Treasure out. They were going to the amusement park today. This time Wang Debao was in charge of driving. Bai Cixin held Xiaobao and played with him. Xiaobao, take good care of the house in the future, understand? If bad people come, bite them. The little guy was dumbfounded as he looked at his mistress. Wang Debao, who was driving, smiled. However, upon closer inspection, Wang Debao's smile was dry. Debao, I want to eat ice cream, hamburgers and all kinds of snacks later, Bai Cixin said coquettishly. Wang Debao teased. Why? Don't you need to lose weight? I won't reduce it. You won't despise me anyway. Who said that? I despise it. If you dare, I'll immediately run away from home with Xiaobao. Haha. Bringing along a relaxed atmosphere, the husband and wife went to Happy Valley. Ever since the witch was eliminated by Voidless Realm, men dared to go to the streets to flirt with women. All of the entertainment venues in Happy Valley were filled to the brim. The men were venting out their gloominess, while the women were venting out their days without men. On this day, Wang Debao brought Bai Cixin to play with all kinds of things. Bai Cixin even went to ride on the merry-go-round. The heart of a young girl was truly bursting out. Meanwhile, Wang Debao took a photo of his wife's heartfelt smile onto his phone. I don't want to forget this woman for the rest of my life. In fact, in the next few days, the husband and wife went to all of the scenic spots around Gaohai City, leaving behind the happy laughter of the husband and wife at every place. Half a month passed by in the blink of an eye. During this half a month, Wang Debao was the happiest he had ever been. All of his worries were thrown to the back of his head, and he went to play with his beloved woman. Bai Cixin was the same as well. Although the time given to her husband was very short, it could be said that she satisfied her husband's request. The life of an ordinary person is truly good, there is no pressure at all and I can do whatever I want to do, truly great. Debao, I have been very happy these few days. Bai Cixin leaned onto her husband's embrace and mumbled. Hearing that, Wang Debao paused for a moment, then asked, Wife, do you like this kind of life? Yes. Bai Cixin truly liked this kind of life. Then can we continue living like this forever? Wang Debao said with a pleading tone. I really don't want my wife to walk into a dead end, why can't I just live a good life? Bai Cixin rubbed onto Xiaobao's head and said tenderly, Debao, I have been chasing after something my entire life and I might only stop when I am tired. I hope that you can bring Xiaobao along and live a good life in the future. The real reason why Bai Cixin bought a dog was because she wanted her husband to have something to rely on, just like how when one sees Xiaobao one would think of herself. Wife, living alone is not my style, we either live together or die together. On the road to hell, let's walk together. Bai Cixin's tears immediately flowed out from her eyes. We will still be together in our next life. Wang Debao held on to his wife's hand tightly and said with certainty, not only in our next life, you have to accompany me in every life. And I will accompany you in every life. Bai Cixin said tenderly, and tears flowed down from her beautiful face. The husband and wife snuggled together for a very, very long time. Bai Cixin's gaze gradually became firm. Let's go look for heaven and earth first. All right. Wang Debao nodded his head. The husband and wife walked back to the bedroom and changed into a set of clean clothes. Looking at his wife who was dressed in white, Wang Debao laughed lightly and said, I like seeing you like this the most. Bai Cixin laughed, then stood in front of her husband and adjusted her necktie. I also like this handsome look of yours. The husband and wife looked at each other and smiled, then walked downstairs while holding hands. After changing into shoes, they walked out of the house. Woof woof woof. Xiaobao chased after them all the way out, then obediently squatted at the entrance of the villa, seemingly waiting for the two owners to return home again. Bai Cixin slightly bowed and stroked Xiaobao. Little fellow, I'm sorry, we won't be able to take care of you anymore. Xiaobao didn't understand what Bai Cixin was saying, and he wagged his tail, seemingly enjoying his owner's stroking. Wang Debao had already driven the car out and he looked at his wife and Xiaobao saying goodbye. Bai Cixin stroked Xiaobao one last time, then turned around and got into the car. Wang Debao frowned and looked at Xiaobao who was squatting at the entrance of the villa. Perhaps Xiaobao won't be able to wait for me and my wife to return home anymore. Lightly stepping on the accelerator, the husband and wife slowly left the house. Home is warm. But in the future, it might be cold. Woof woof woof. Chapter 670. Even dogs knew that a home with a master was perfect. Without a master it wouldn't be a home. Wang Debao stepped on the brake, opened the door and got out of the car. He held Xiaobao in his arms before getting into the car. The little guy saw his master parking the car and even carried him. He was very happy that his master did not abandon him. Xiaobao can be Feng Tian's companion, Wang Debao said softly. Bai Cixin nodded. At least she would have a place to return to. Half an hour later the couple arrived at the towering villa, which used to be their own. Xiaobao followed his master out of the car and arrived at this unfamiliar place. He was a bit vigilant and followed closely behind his mistress. Walking into the villa, Wang Debao was surprised to see the autistic Feng Tian pushing Qing Tiandi in his wheelchair for a walk. Qing Tiandi smiled when he saw Wang Debao and Bai Cixin. Debao, sister-in-law, long time no see. Brother Qing, how are you now? Wang Debao walked up and asked. Heaven and earth pursed his lips. Isn't it the same? On the other hand, Qing Tiandi realized that the couple was acting strangely. What's going on? Bai Cixin exhaled softly and lowered her head to look at Xiaobao. Feng Tian, this is the dog I bought. Can you help me take care of it in the future? Feng Tian looked at Xiaobao, who seemed to be a little afraid, and hid behind Bai Cixin's feet. What are you going to do? Feng Tian asked. Wang Debao laughed lightly. I will accompany my wife to Voidless Realm. Qing Tian's expression stiffened. You two are going to Voidless Realm? Yes, some things have to be settled. Bai Cixin nodded quietly. Do you all know the consequences of going to Voidless Realm? God raising heaven and earth muttered. God raising heaven and earth was truly surprised, but at the same time God raising heaven and earth admired them a lot. There was only one outcome for going to Voidless Realm, and that was death. Brother Qing, we have decided to leave. We came here today to say our goodbyes and also to entrust Xiaobao. Wang Debao smiled. At this moment his heart seemed to have calmed down. Qing Tian sighed softly. Why do you have to do this? To be honest, Qing Tiandi does have a good impression of this couple. Although they did some things behind my back, it was all for the sake of protecting themselves. This is understandable. Bai Cixin smiled gently and said, Brother Qing, actually we still have to thank you. Thank you for taking care of us. Sai, let's not talk about it. Sometimes I make mistakes. Why don't you stay for lunch? We're a team after all. Heaven raising heaven and earth said in a low voice. The couple didn't refuse and brought Xiaobao into the villa. Feng Tian's expression was a little strange, as if he was struggling with something. Brother Qing, how about a family bucket? Wang Debao suggested. Qing Tiandi chuckled. Debao, I really admire you. What are you talking about? You're just being sloppy. Bai Cixin covered her mouth and giggled. She was really merciless in teasing her husband. Although she said that, Bai Cixin took out her phone and ordered takeout. Everyone sat on the sofa and watched the television quietly. As the doorbell rang, Wang Debao got up to get the takeaway. Eating fried chicken and cola, he felt like he had returned to the past. At that time Xiaoyi was still there. At that time Fingdi was still around. At that time Qin Xuanzong was still around. Thinking back to the beginning, during that period of time everyone was talking and laughing, but now, the meal passed by very quickly. The table was filled with bones, and even Xiaobao was playing with the bones while gnawing on the bones. Burp. Wang Debao burped without any grace at all. Bai Cixin shook her head helplessly. However, she also liked her husband's straightforwardness. Letting out a breath, Wang Debao shouted out, This meal is so satisfying. Qing Tiandi gradually became serious. Wang Debao, Bai Cixin, I hope that the two of you will be able to come back alive. I Qing Tiandi have very few friends, but today I feel that the two of you are my friends. The couple went into a daze for a moment, but right now they didn't have the mood to think about anything else. Brother Qing, you are also our friend. Qing Tiandi tightly wrinkled his brows. As your friend, I still want to advise the two of you, don't go to Voidless Realm and live a good life. Bai Cixin said tenderly, Brother Qing, thank you for your kind intentions. If it's possible, can you do me a favor? What is it? Help me capture Debao. I don't want him to accompany me to Voidless Realm. Wang Debao was very helpless. However, this time he didn't get angry. Wife, unless Big Brother Qing is able to capture me forever, I will still go to Voidless Realm and take revenge for you. Cixin, you should be proud to have such a man. Debao, I Qing Tian admire you. You are a man. There was no need for Qing Tian to put on an act. They were already prepared to die. Wang Debao cupped his hands to express his gratitude. Honey, you'll never be able to get rid of me in this lifetime. Yeah, in the next life I'll stick to you. The couple looked at each other and smiled, their fingers tightly clasped together. Feng Tian, I'll leave Xiaobao in your care. Wang Debao called out to the dumbfounded Feng Tian. After which, he held his wife's hand and prepared to leave. Wait! Feng Tian suddenly shouted. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin turned to look at Feng Tian. Feng Tian slowly stood up and said in a deep voice, I'll go with you. Feng Tian's eyes were filled with determination as he said this. His previous gloominess was gone. It was as if the domineering Feng Tian from before had returned. What are you going to do? Qing Tian asked in confusion. Feng Tian clenched his fists tightly. I'm going to settle the debt. After finished speaking, Feng Tian went upstairs to change his clothes. When he came down, all the stubble on his face had been cleaned, and the golden mask on his face looked brand new. Feng Tian felt as if he had been reborn. Feng Tian was also influenced by Wang Debao and Bai Cixin. Both of them are not afraid of death, but I, a man, am not afraid of death. Even if I die this time, I will wash away the humiliation I suffered back then. After Feng Tian went downstairs, he directly stood outside the door and waited. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin took one last look at Qing Tian and Xiaobao, who was gnawing on a bone on the floor, then closed the door. Qing Tian sat on the wheelchair absent-mindedly. Looking at the food on the table and feeling the air around him, it seemed that the air had become cold. A few minutes ago, everyone was still eating KFC, and in just a few minutes I'm the only one left sitting here. And we are going to die. Why are we so foolish? We clearly know that we are going to die. Why do we still want to go? Why can't we be more rational and think of a way in the future? Bai Cixin had thought of all kinds of ways, but it was all useless. Meanwhile, Feng Tian is only going there for Yi Zizi. This time, even if I die, I will do my best. Perhaps Qing Tian still hasn't realized a problem. Why? If it's for something, then there would be a reason for me to die. Chapter 671. Only then did Xiaobao realize that his master had disappeared. He anxiously shouted and kept grabbing at the door, wanting to find his master. Wang Debao, Bai Cixin, and Feng Tian had already appeared outside of Voidless Realm's barrier. Thinking about how I am so close to Voidless Realm, Bai Cixin became very excited, and the blood in Bai Cixin's entire body started boiling. All of the hard work that Voidless Realm had put in over the years turned into bubbles with just a single sentence from Voidless Realm. Upon thinking about this, Bai Cixin immediately became furious. Voidless Realm, what right do you have to deny your own hard work? Just because your name is Voidless Realm. I, Bai Cixin, am not resigned to this. Wang Debao understood his wife very well. As a husband, he would definitely accompany her, even if it was the abyss of death. Feng Tian, who was standing at the side, recalled that day and felt humiliated. He was beaten up by a little girl and didn't even have the chance to avenge his brother. Today, if she didn't die, then he would die. I, Feng Tian, do not need your pity. In actuality, the reason why Feng Tian became autistic was because Yi Zizi had spared his life, and the look of disdain in her eyes was still vivid in his mind. Wang Debao took a deep breath, picked up a handful of sand from the ground and threw it at the barrier. The yellow sand with spiritual qi collided with the barrier like tiny bullets, causing little ripples. However, this could also be considered as knocking on the door. Meanwhile, inside Voidless Realm, Yi Hua's family was currently having lunch. Xianxia, I am very happy that your cooking has improved. While eating the dishes that Xianxia cooked, Yi Hua gave a high evaluation. The corners of Yi Yan's mouth were covered in oil. He smiled and said, Mom, Dad praised you. Right now, even the little fellows know that it is an honor to be able to receive Daddy's praise. Yan, be good and eat. Xianxia patted her son's head and smiled. Yi Yan responded and began to eat fiercely. However, towards her husband's praise, Xianxia was still very happy. My hard work did not go to waste. On the other hand, Dong Huangli's table manners were a lot more refined. However, Dong Huangli still said, Mummy, you have to work hard. Mummy Qing has already received Daddy's praise, but you haven't. Dong Huang Baiji. Being teased by her daughter like that, Dong Huang Baiji felt depressed to death. However, speaking of which, I have to deal with Voidless Realms matters every single day, so where would I have the time to take care of my husband's daily life? From the looks of it, I have to pay more attention to this aspect in the future. What Ali said is right. Baiji, you should properly reflect on your actions. Yi Hua said faintly. Dong Huang Baiji, this father and daughter pair were simply ganging up to bully others. They were too evil. Ali, then who do you like, Mummy or Daddy? Dong Huang Baiji felt that she had to regain a bit of her confidence and thought to herself, my daughter definitely likes me a bit more. Yihua shook his head. This empress, sometimes she is really stupid. Isn't this question just trying to trick me? Dong Huangli didn't hesitate at all. Of course I like daddy a bit more and then mommy. Dong Huang Baiji. Blow. This blow is too much of a blow. Huh? Yihua laughed out loud, causing Dong Huang Baiji to feel like crying. My daughter actually likes my father a bit more? It wasn't easy for me to take care of you. Qin Yutong was also lightly laughing while covering her mouth. These two little fellows are so cute. Big sister and big sister Baiji are definitely going to be depressed. Right now the two of them are the ones who are following brother-in-law around. Seeing that Qin Yutong was secretly laughing, Dong Huang Baiji decided to change the focus of the conversation. Yutong, this year is going to be half over again. How are you going to solve the problem of that person of yours? The corner of Qin Yutong's mouth twitched. The empress can't bully anyone but me. Brother-in-law, your wife is bullying me. Why aren't you saying anything? Of course, Yihua had to say something. Baiji, Yutong is still young, what's the rush? Qin didn't think so. What do you mean by still young? In a few years' time she will be 30 years old. Who would want her then? Even if I am 30 years old, I will still be the prettiest. Qin Yutong didn't care at all. It is good to have brother-in-law supporting me. Just as Qinya was about to properly teach her little sister a lesson, an imperial guard hurriedly ran over and said respectfully, reporting to your majesty, someone is destroying the barrier. Dong Huang Baiji's brows wrinkled. Someone is destroying the barrier again. Yihua waved his hand and very quickly an image appeared on the screen. Why are there so many people seeking death during this period of time? This is making me a bit annoyed. Very quickly figures appeared on the screen. It's them. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows. I didn't expect that it would be Wang Debao and his wife as well as Feng Tian. Yihua had a good impression of Wang Debao. During the first time he came into contact with Wang Debao was the first one to return the money. Wang Debao was a man of his word. Yihua remembered that back then Dong Huang Baiji expelled him from the north, and back then Wang Debao came to look for Yihua, seemingly wanting to seek shelter with Yihua, but was rejected. If Yihua didn't remember wrongly, Yihua even received a carton of cigarettes from Wang Debao back then. Qinya was also very confused. Why did Wang Debao and Bai Cixin come to our place? There's also this Feng Tian. Qin Yutong had seen Feng Tian before. Back then Feng Tian had consumed the blood demon. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely, since they came there is definitely something going on. Back then when I expelled Bai family from the north, it seems like they have some complaints. Yihua placed down the chopsticks in his hand and said indifferently, if they don't have any complaints even after that, then it would be strange. Qin Yutong held on to her chin, and a look of admiration could be seen in her eyes. This is completely seeking death. Or could it be that they knew that they would die and so they still came as usual? Let's go out and take a look. I have quite a good feeling towards this Wang Debao. Yihua's meaning was very clear. Other than Wang Debao, the life and death of the others didn't matter to him. We want to go as well. Yan shouted out while standing on the stool. Qinya glared at Yihua. Obediently eat your food. After eating, go and take a nap. If I find out that you two sneaked out again, I will smack your butts. In this family, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji played the role of strict mother, while Yihua played the role of a loving father. The children would definitely like their father a lot. Yi Yan pouted his small mouth and ate his food quietly. To not even bring me and big sister to such fun things, I feel so depressed. After the parents left, Dong Huangli said in a low voice, Yan, don't worry, big sister will bring you out to have fun in the future. Really? Of course it's true. When did big sister ever lie to you? And big sister is the best. Yan was very happy. I feel so fortunate to have such a big sister. At this moment, Yihua appeared outside of Voidless Realm's barrier with his 3 women. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin did not cower, and both of them looked at each other fixedly. Meanwhile, Feng Tian was very puzzled. Where is that little loli? Where is that little loli? Yihua first took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up, then asked faintly, why did you two come to Voidless Realm? If there is nothing, please go back. Chapter 672. I, the Supreme Overlord, am not a person who willfully slaughters the innocent. Furthermore, there is no sense of accomplishment in killing them. However, because of Wang Debao's face, I can let them off. This deity quite admires this man. He is trustworthy, completely different from Xiao Yi. I have something to do. Wang Debao said aloud. As a man he couldn't be a coward at this time. Today he had to get justice for his wife. Yi Hua's brows slightly wrinkled. I, the Supreme Overlord, very rarely persuade others, and the auntie's son is one of them. The auntie's son is also in a rather good mood today, which is why I said a few words to Yi Hua. Don't make me, the Supreme Overlord, impatient. Speak. Yi Hua asked faintly, and wisps of green smoke rose from the cigarette that was on the tip of his finger. Wang Debao held his wife's hand tightly and said in a low voice, We must seek justice from the Empress. Dong Huang Baiji, who was standing at the back, paused for a moment. Seems like my guess is correct. Yi Hua let out a breath. Baiji, they are looking for you. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head, then took a step forward and asked, What kind of justice do you two want from me? Bai Cixin's eyes flashed with determination. She held her husband's hand tightly. I, Bai Cixin, have worked hard all my life, but you negated all my hard work with just one sentence. I can't accept this. Dong Huang Baiji's expression remained unchanged as she said faintly, If I don't remember wrongly, back then I had already given the order to forbid you two from fighting each other, yet you still joined hands with Xiao Yi and went to Tang family. My voidless realm is a big power in the north, yet you didn't even listen to the words of a big power. Do you even put voidless realm in your eyes? Voidless realm. Voidless realm. Just because you are the Empress of voidless realm, does that mean that you have the authority to sentence a person to death? Bai Cixin's voice gradually became agitated and hoarse. Dong Huang Baiji silently looked at Bai Cixin, then said, That's right. That's why I can't accept this. Bai Cixin shouted in her sweet voice. Dong Huang Baiji looked at the woman in front of her and seemed to be able to understand what the woman in front of her was feeling. However, the position that Dong Huang Baiji was in was different, and thus the way that Dong Huang Baiji thought would be different. How do you want to seek justice? Dong Huang Baiji asked lightly. As a woman, it was better for Dong Huang Baiji to speak nicely and not directly kill him. A long sword could be seen condensing in Bai Cixin's hand, and Bai Cixin looked at Dong Huang Baiji. I, Bai Cixin, am going to challenge you, Voidless Realm's Empress. Bai Cixin's actions caused Yi Hua to be puzzled, and even Xianxia and Qin Yutong, who were standing at the back, were stupefied. Challenging Voidless Realm's Empress. What was the difference between that and courting death? Dong Huang Baiji's expression slightly changed. This woman is so stubborn that it's a little scary. You are no match for me. Dong Huang Baiji said gravely. She seemed to be trying to dispel Bai Cixin's thoughts. After all, both of their strengths were simply not on the same level. Bai Cixin did not back down and said loudly, Dong Huang Baiji, I know that I am not your opponent, but no matter what, I, Bai Cixin, still want to challenge you. Even if I have to use my last drop of blood. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji understood that Bai Cixin was standing for his beliefs, even if he were to fall at the entrance of Voidless Realm today. From a woman's point of view, Dong Huang Baiji couldn't bear to do that. However, from the perspective of Voidless Realm's Empress wouldn't allow anyone to look down on her. Alright. I, Dong Huang Baiji, accept your challenge. Hearing that Dong Huang Baiji accepted her challenge, Bai Cixin's expression changed a bit, as if something had just been released. However, towards this kind of situation, the one who felt the most uncomfortable was Wang Debao. His big hand tightly held onto his wife's delicate hand, seemingly not wanting to let go. Yi Hua and Xianxia both saw the two's actions. Xianxia was a little confused. Can't they just live a normal life? Why do they have to be like this? Is it just because of that tone of voice? Yi Hua had encountered similar problems in the past. However, those people were all people who came to take revenge. Even if they knew that they were no match for their opponent, their conviction in taking revenge was incomparably huge. In the past, Yi Hua didn't understand why those people would do that, but now that he thought about it, those people's courage was indeed very big. Facing an opponent that they were no match for, even though they clearly knew that they were going to die, they still didn't hesitate to do so, all for the sake of fulfilling the desire in their hearts. Debao, let me finish one last thing. In the future I will listen to everything you say. Bai Cixin looked at her husband and said tenderly. Wang Debao mumbled, Is there still a future? And there will be a future. Bai Cixin said with a firm tone. Wang Debao lightly let go of his wife's hand. He felt that if he let go of his wife like this, he might not be able to hold on to her hand anymore. At this moment, Yihua looked towards Feng Tian and asked, "What did you come here for?" "Revenge." Right now, Feng Tian didn't have a trace of fear, even if the person who was standing in front of him was Yihua. "Who are you going to take revenge on?" Yihua asked curiously. "I don't seem to have seen this man before, right?" Feng Tian said eerily, "That lowly with twin tails." When Feng Tian said that, Yihua and the others immediately knew who that lowly was. Such a unique symbol, isn't that Yizizi? No matter what, other people are also here to take revenge, and I, the Supreme Overlord, should satisfy their wish. However, this Feng Tian actually dared to challenge Yizizi. His courage is indeed commendable. "Alright, I will grant you your wish," Yihua said faintly, then immediately contacted Yizizi. Yizizi, who was currently playing games, received a summon from Yihua. Without a choice, Yizizi had no choice but to kill herself. "Even if I die, I have to do it myself. It is impossible for me to kill myself." Very quickly, Yizizi appeared at the scene. When Feng Tian saw that familiar face, his entire body trembled slightly. "Oh, it's you. Didn't I spare you last time? Why are you here again?" Yizizi really didn't understand what this person was thinking. Feng Tian looked at Yizizi's disdainful expression and said, "I, Feng Tian, want to challenge you again." "You are really bored, Sai. It's not like you can defeat me." Yizizi shook her head, her twin tails swaying behind her head. Yizizi seemed to not be interested at all. "Isn't this a complete waste of time? Sometimes telling the truth is very hurtful, just like right now." Yihua said faintly, "Since someone wants to challenge you, are you going to avoid the battle?" Yizizi pouted her small mouth. "Since his honor has already said it like this, what else can I do? Alright, let's fight again then. This time I won't hold back." Yizizi clenched her small fist and waved it. Coupled with that cute expression of hers, Yizizi didn't seem to be threatening at all. What Feng Tian wanted was a fair battle. "Alright. I also hope that you won't hold back." A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yizizi's mouth. "You are very special." Feng Tian didn't say anything, then leaped high into the air and landed at the side. Yizizi slowly followed after Feng Tian. The battle between the Empress and Baizixin was also at the side. Although both battles were one-sided, Yihua still wanted to take a look at it this time. Chapter 673. Looking towards Wang Debao, a strange thought emerged in Yihua's mind. This man is very pitiful. His gaze was tightly locked onto his wife, and his gaze carried an indescribable expression that could make one feel depressed. As a man, Yihua could somewhat understand Wang Debao's feelings. Just like Xianxia, if she knew that she was going to throw her life away, she still went. How would he feel then? Yihua stretched out his hand and lightly held onto Xianxia's delicate hand, then carried Xianxia into his embrace. Xianxia nestled in her husband's embrace, seemingly understanding her husband's mood. "Xianxia, I won't let you suffer any harm," Yihua said gravely. "I can't care about other people's matters, but when it comes to my own woman, no one could afford to offend him, including himself." Xianxia smelled the faint smell of smoke on Yihua's body and said tenderly, "Yihua, I believe in you." Qing Yutong, who was standing at the back, looked at brother-in-law and big sister and revealed out a smile. Big sister is truly fortunate to have such a good man like brother-in-law dote on her. But I'm also not bad. Brother-in-law also dotes on me. Although it's not open and above board, I'm content. In actuality, Qing Yutong cared a lot about her big sister's thoughts, and she was not willing to see her big sister and Yihua quarrel because of her. She would rather hide Yihua and Yihua for the rest of their lives. This way she would be able to blame herself a bit less. After all, she was snatching her big sister's man. However, Qing Yutong didn't expect that Xianxia was indeed trying to matchmake them. At this moment, Feng Tian stood on the yellow sand and looked at the little lowly in front of him. Without saying a word, he took off his mask. After the mask was lifted, a violent wave of spiritual energy burst out. Yizizi's ponytail swayed wildly in the face of the strong wind. However, Yizizi's expression remained unchanged. Another Feng Tian seemed to have appeared. He stared at Yizizi with the eyes of a hungry wolf. A strong sense of self-confidence exploded from his body. Feng Tian's face became crazed. "Today, I, Feng Tian, will take revenge." "Boring," Yizizi said softly. Yizizi could only describe this kind of battle as boring. Feng Tian didn't mind and shouted, "I hope you can fight me with your full strength." Okay, I'll do my best. Yizizi was also helpless. Why do I have to go all out? I Yizizi am going all out. Even his honor has to be careful when dealing with me, let alone you. But sometimes a white lie was necessary. Feng Tian was very satisfied with Yizizi's words. His body suddenly burst out and the yellow sand was lifted up by 100 meters with this one step. A terrifying spiritual pressure rushed towards Yizizi. Yizizi ignored the spiritual pressure and stood still as she watched Feng Tian attack. Feng Tian looked at the defenseless Yizizi and his expression turned terrifying. You're still looking down on me. Why? Yizizi's attitude had infuriated Feng Tian to the extreme. At this moment Feng Tian's strength had actually broken through. A white-red spirit qi wrapped around Feng Tian's entire body, causing the heavens and earth to tremble slightly. The terrifying spirit pressure caused the sky to darken and thunder to rumble. There was no technique behind this punch, but it carried the unwillingness of the heavens. Anger. Frenzy. Yizizi sighed softly. She still did not put up any defense. Die. Feng Tian roared. Countless lightning bolts struck Feng Tian's body, making the terrifying spiritual energy even more ferocious. The entire desert was filled with gales of force 10 as if it was the end of the world. Boom. A huge amount of energy exploded out from Yizizi's chest. At this moment the air seemed to have been torn apart and a terrifying cyclone suddenly spread out. If one were to look at it from outer space, one would be able to clearly see a circle. From this, it could be seen how ferocious this punch was. Yi Hua tightly hugged onto Xianxia, and his left hand even secretly held onto Qin Yutong's small hand. No one noticed this action of his. Seeing brother-in-law's action, Qin Yutong felt very happy. Brother-in-law did not forget about me and still cares about me. At this moment, Qin Yutong is willing to do anything for brother-in-law. As long as brother-in-law says the word, I will be willing to climb a mountain of swords and dive into a sea of flames. This Feng Tian is very powerful. Yi Hua said faintly. If I didn't appear it would still be possible for them to have a fair competition. However, my appearance is just like a bug, there is no way to get rid of it. Xianxia closed her beautiful eyes and said tenderly, in my heart, you are the most powerful man. The most powerful man is currently holding onto your little sister's hand, and I even feel that it is very exciting. Hugging onto his wife and holding onto his sister-in-law. There is nothing more exciting than this. Yellow sand swept across the scene, and it was completely impossible to see anything clearly. After quite a while the yellow sand gradually calmed down, and two figures appeared in Yizizi's field of vision. Yizizi was still standing in the same posture, and Feng Tian's fist landed onto Yizizi's abdomen. You. Feng Tian looked at the little loli in front of him and muttered. Yizizi patted onto her skirt and said faintly, the difference between us is too big. Feng Tian looked at Yizizi and shouted out, then you should fight with all your strength. I don't need your pity. I also don't need your mercy. Yizizi clenched her small fist tightly and wrinkled her brows. You are the one who said it. A smile appeared on Feng Tian's face, because Yizizi's expression right now could be considered to be serious. I have received fair treatment. Yizizi took a deep look at the man in front of her, then punched onto Feng Tian's chest with her small fist. No spiritual energy exploded out from Yizizi's fist, and it was just like an ordinary punch. Feng Tian felt the power of Yizizi's fist and he looked at Yizizi strangely. Crack. Cracks appeared on the left side of Feng Tian's golden face. Like a broken vase it broke into pieces. Pieces of golden objects fell to the ground, revealing Feng Tian's original appearance. He was a rather handsome man. That strange eye actually returned to its original color at this moment. That punch seemed to have scattered all of Feng Tian's life force. Blood started to seep out from Feng Tian's skin, and very quickly, it covered his entire body. He was like a blood man. This is my full strength, Yizizi said softly. Actually, she was lying to him, but it wasn't that important anymore. Feng Tian slowly collapsed on the yellow sand. He looked up at the sky and his lips curled into a smile. You are really strong, the strongest person I have ever seen, Feng Tian muttered. Yizizi pouted. Is that so? Maybe you are too inexperienced. Maybe, but I know that you haven't used your full strength. Feng Tian smiled. Yizizi shrugged helplessly. All right, you noticed that. Feng Tian's body started to break down like glass shards. Feng Tian muttered, "Thank you for accepting my challenge. If there is a next life, I will continue to challenge you." Looking at the dying Feng Tian, Yi Zizi said softly, "Any time." Chapter 674. Along with the breeze, Feng Tian's broken body was completely buried in the yellow sand. Yi Zizi sighed lightly. "Can't I just live well? What was the point of this? The battle had already ended." Yi Hua told Yi Zizi to go back first, and the latter hurriedly left the scene to continue eating chicken. "Zizi is very strong," Xianxia said. Yi Hua nodded his head, and, "Zizi is very strong, even I have to be wary of her." "Is that so? This is the first time I heard you say that." Xianxia smiled gently. "Of course, I am only talking about the battle of strength." "Tisk tisk. Yi Hua, then tell me, am I stronger or are you stronger?" Xianxia asked curiously. She wanted to hear how her husband would answer. Yi Hua was a man with EQ right now. He said faintly, "Of course you are stronger." "Is that so?" Xianxia was very happy. It was already not easy for her husband to make her happy. In the past he would always attack her. The three then looked towards the battle between Donghuang Baizhi and Bai Cixin. This battle is not that simple. Donghuang Baizhi looked at Bai Cixin, who was not far away, and a purple long sword immediately appeared in her hand. "Since Bai Cixin wants to challenge me, I will definitely go all out." Bai Cixin held onto the long sword in her hand tightly. Her heart was as calm as still water. Of course, there was also a bit of excitement. "I am finally going to fight against the Empress. No matter what the outcome is, I have fulfilled my wish. However, I have let down my husband because I hurt him because of my selfishness." Looking at Donghuang Baizhi's protruding belly, Bai Cixin couldn't help but feel envious. "If possible, I also want to have a baby with my husband." "Our battle won't hurt your child, right?" Bai Cixin asked lightly. This was a personal grudge and it had nothing to do with the child. Donghuang Baizhi didn't answer this question. Actually, a woman shouldn't be so headstrong. Having a good man and having a child is the true meaning of life. "I understand what you are saying, but these are all things that have to be done tomorrow. Today's matters will end today." Bai Cixin still persisted in her belief and didn't waver at all. "Bai Cixin, come. Let this empress have a taste of your strength." Donghuang Baizhi shouted out, and a terrifying spiritual pressure blossomed out from her body. Bai Cixin did not want to fall behind either. Now that she had her primordial spirit, her strength was no longer the same as before. A powerful spiritual pressure instantly spread out and clashed against Donghuang Baizhi's spiritual pressure. The two of them were actually equally matched. It was obvious that Bai Cixin had become much more powerful after she obtained her primordial spirit. In actuality, Donghuang Baizhi still did not bring out her true strength. Right now her strength was only at the state she was in back then. Ever since she had sex with Yi Hua, her strength had become stronger and stronger. Adding on the food that Yi Hua had given her, her strength was no longer the same as before. Could be said that her current strength was all because of Yi Hua. If not, it would be hard to say who would win today. What Donghuang Baizhi said was right. The current Bai Cixin was no longer the same as before. If Donghuang Baizhi didn't have Yi Hua, she might have lost today. However, who asked Donghuang Baizhi to have such a man? This was all fate, this was something that no one had expected. "Ha!" Bai Cixin let out a delicate shout and instantly attacked with the sword in her hand. Donghuang Baizhi's eyes focused, and the purple long sword in her hand turned into purple light. A purple sword chi was instantly condensed, and the purple sword chi flew towards Bai Cixin. Bai Cixin did not have any fear, and the long sword in her hand released a white sword chi. In an instant the two sword chi collided with each other and a huge shockwave burst out. The two women's beautiful figures instantly intertwined with each other, and they began a close combat battle. Numerous shockwaves swept across the yellow desert. Wang Debao's expression tensed up as he stared fixedly at the beautiful figure in the middle of the battlefield, and his heart sunk to the bottom. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows as he looked at the battlefield. Logically speaking, Baizhi should be able to quickly end the battle, but right now the two of them seem to be locked in a stalemate. From the looks of it, Baizhi also wants to spare her life. In actuality, all of this was because of Wang Debao, this infatuated man. The reason why Yi Hua wanted to forgive them was also because of Wang Debao. Back then, those family heads that Yi Hua had met all basically had multiple wives and concubines, and only Wang Debao didn't have any. This kind of man made Yi Hua sigh with emotion. Wang Debao is a good man, and for the sake of this good man, Yihua doesn't want to see a tragedy happen. However, Bai Cixin's personality was different, and Wang Debao was destined to be disappointed. Yihua let them live. Xianxia said in a low voice. In actuality, she knew in her heart that Yihua would definitely be unhappy if she said such words. However, when she saw Wang Debao's appearance, she truly could not bear to say such words. This time Yihua didn't blame Xianxia and said lightly, right now it's not up to us to decide, it's up to Bai Cixin herself, it's up to her whether she's willing or not. Qin Yutong felt that Qin Yutong was right. Women one mustn't be too strong, sometimes it's good to be a foolish woman. Xianxia let out a light sigh. That's right, this matter completely depends on Bai Cixin. As long as Bai Cixin was willing to let go of Donghuang Baiji would most likely not look into this matter. The battle at the scene was still going on, emitting colorful astral winds that blew across the yellow sand. Boom! The two figures instantly separated from each other, and Donghuang Baiji's clothes could be seen to be completely fine. On the other hand, Bai Cixin's white robe was already lacerated, and it was even dyed red. However, Bai Cixin's expression did not change. At first glance she looked a little happy. He enjoyed the moment. He was worried about this moment. Donghuang Baiji, don't hold back anymore. I hope that you will treat this battle seriously, don't let me feel humiliated. Bai Cixin shouted out. In actuality, it could be seen that Donghuang Baiji had held back during the battle. However, this was not what Bai Cixin wanted. Just like consecration, she only wanted to obtain her opponent's respect. Donghuang Baiji's gaze was filled with puzzlement. Do you really want to fight that much? You don't care about Wang Debao's feelings at all? Hearing Donghuang Baiji's words, Bai Cixin slightly went into a daze. She took a glance at her husband who was far away from her and felt extremely guilty in her heart. However, today, if I can't fulfill my wish, I might as well just die. My husband supports me just like you. Bai Cixin shouted out gravely. On the surface, Wang Debao supported his wife, but in his heart he didn't want his wife to do this. However, since his wife wanted to do this, Wang Debao would support her unconditionally. Bai Cixin, I will say this one last time, it's still not too late to stop now. Don't let the person who loves you feel sad. Donghuang Baiji gave her final warning. Bai Cixin stopped and looked at her husband who was far away from her, and her gaze became complicated. At this moment, Bai Cixin imagined the scene after she stopped, and she and her husband would be able to live happily together. However, would that really be happiness? Chapter 675. However, when she saw the worried look on her husband's face, Bai Cixin's heart ached a little. She was not a good woman, nor was she a good wife. She did not give her husband the family he wanted. Debao, forgive me for bringing you pain. The person I, Bai Cixin, have wronged the most is you. She gently closed her beautiful eyes. When she opened them again, her beautiful eyes were already firm and unwavering. The long sword in his hand was pointed towards Donghuang Baiji. His intention was very clear. When Wang Debao saw his wife's actions, his eyes were filled with despair, and his body was filled with a deathly aura. Wang Debao is really pitiful. Xianxia looked at the lonely figure and said softly. After hearing that, Yihua let out a light sigh. Everyone has the right to make their own choice, and I, the Supreme Overlord, have never interfered with their choices. However, since I have already made my choice, then he would have to face the consequences of his choice. Regardless of whether he was happy or sad, he would have to bear the pain. Bai Cixin chose to be sad. It couldn't be helped. Life was like this. There were many things that couldn't be perfect. The person you loved, sometimes it was hard to get anything in return. Wang Debao had sacrificed a lot for Bai Cixin. This kind of selfless sacrifice without asking for anything in return. As a man, Yihua was starting to admire Wang Debao. If he was in Wang Debao's shoes, he probably wouldn't be able to reach the same state of mind as Wang Debao. Since the main body had already paid the price, there had to be some sort of harvest. Even if there wasn't any harvest, he would still forcefully reap the harvest. In the field, Bai Cixin suddenly released a violent burst of spiritual energy, which enveloped her delicate body like white flames. Judging from Bai Cixin's state, it seemed that she was going to give it her all. Bai Cixin's beautiful eyes were filled with joy, but deep in her beautiful eyes she could not bear to see this. Even Bai Cixin herself knew that she was going to die soon. In this battle, Bai Cixin was planning to bid farewell to her hard work with her death. She did not expect to win at all. Bai Cixin took one last look at her husband and shouted, "Pure core sword technique." Boom. Bai Cixin channeled all the spiritual energy in the surroundings into the longsword in her hand. Her entire longsword was like a ferocious beast, letting out a series of sword cries and trembling violently. Suddenly, the long sword flew out and everything in its path exploded. Dong Huang Baiji's gaze turned serious, and the purple long sword in her hand immediately released a cyclone. Qinghong Purple Dragon. The purple long sword in Dong Huang Baiji's hand actually transformed into an enormous purple dragon, and an enormous dragon's might spread out in all directions. Roar. A dragon's roar shook the world. Following Dong Huang Baiji's shout, the purple dragon pounced towards the berserk long sword. Looking at the situation, Yi Hua let out a deep sigh, while Xianxia directly buried her head into her husband's chest. In the face of the giant purple dragon, the violent sword energy was shattered into pieces before it could even touch it. Bai Cixin's long sword turned into dust at this moment. Bai Cixin was not surprised to see this. She stood straight and looked at the purple dragon that was attacking her. However, the purple dragon did not show any mercy. It ferociously attacked Bai Cixin, its terrifying dragon might fluttering Bai Cixin's white clothes. Suddenly, a black shadow charged into the scene. Looking at this scene, Yi Hua's brows tightly wrinkled, and it was to the extent that he seemed to be gathering something on his right hand, but in the end he still dissipated it. Maybe this is the best ending. Xianxia looked at the black shadow and tears flowed out from her beautiful eyes. For a man to do such a thing, that woman should be very happy just like me. On that day when I was in despair, Yi Hua appeared in Voidless Realm and beat the bad guy away. This is what I feel. When Qin Yutong saw that the black shadow acted without any hesitation, her mood became very heavy. This kind of situation seems to only appear in television dramas, and even in the dramas that I acted in, I didn't expect that I would be able to see it with my own eyes today. Bai Cixin felt very heavy in her heart. If Bai Cixin could let go of the obsession in her heart, how happy would that be? Bai Cixin was originally looking at the enormous purple dragon, but that familiar face appeared in front of her. Dabao. Wang Dabao didn't pay any attention to the enormous purple dragon behind him, and instead he tightly hugged onto his wife. Nestling into the warm chest, Bai Cixin felt that her entire body was very comfortable. "Wife, wherever you go, I will accompany you." Wang Dabao lightly caressed onto Bai Cixin's beautiful hair and said with a smile. "Dabao." Bai Cixin called out lightly. Roar. The enormous purple dragon opened its mouth and roared, and the berserk aura penetrated through the body of the husband and wife. Soon after, the enormous purple dragon flew into the sky, and with another roar, the enormous purple dragon transformed back into a purple sword and returned to Dong Huang Baiji's hand. Bloodstains dripped down from the body of the sword, dripping onto the yellow sand, drop after drop, drop after drop. Wang Dabao tightly hugged onto his wife, while Bai Cixin leaned onto her husband's embrace. Bai Cixin said tenderly, "Dabao, will our child be a boy or a girl?" Wang Dabao grinned, "Idiot, let's give birth to a boy and a girl." "That's fine, you will be in charge of sending the children to school and I will cook for you at home." Bai Cixin laughed, and on her beautiful face was a look of longing for the future. Wang Dabao seemed to have also seen the future, and he said with a smile, "Our whole family will definitely be very happy." "And Dabao, I'm tired, let's go home." "And let's go home." The husband and wife hugged onto each other tightly, and their feet gradually transformed into purple starlight and slowly rose into the sky. Bai Cixin's peaceful and beautiful face slowly disappeared, and Wang Dabao's happy smile also gradually transformed into starlight. The purple starlight floated into the sky and blended into the blue sky. Wang Dabao and Bai Cixin disappeared just like that, with the hope towards the future, with the longing towards each other, with the longing towards their own home. Perhaps it would be just like what they said, this kind of ending would be for them to go home. They would no longer have to bother about the worldly disputes, and they would be able to live a relaxed life together. Xianxia was already crying her eyes out, and even Qin Yutong was the same as well. Wang Dabao's deep love made the two of them moved, and the feelings between the husband and wife made the two of them burst into tears. Especially when the husband and wife gradually disappeared, the color that brimmed on their faces made the two of them feel so sad. The two women leaned onto Yi Hua's embrace and cried, while Yi Hua tightly hugged onto Xianxia and Qin Yutong. His expression was a bit heavy. It wasn't that I haven't seen this kind of situation before. I have seen this kind of situation many times in the past. There were men who died for women and there were women who died for men. At that time I didn't feel anything and I even felt that they were stupid. However, right now Yi Hua didn't feel that way. Perhaps it was because I knew them, but the death of Wang Debao and his wife made Yi Hua feel very unhappy. Why did you choose this kind of ending? I allowed you two to live. Yet you two still chose to die without any hesitation. Chapter 676. The purple longsword in Dong Huang Baiji's hand disappeared, and tears flowed out from the corner of her eyes. When he was fighting with Bai Cixin, he had already sensed that Bai Cixin was here to seek death today. When he saw Wang Debao, he threw himself at Bai Cixin and hugged her tightly in his arms. At this moment, I recalled all the bits and pieces that happened between me and Yi Hua. From the hatred that I had towards Yi Hua to the love that I had towards Yi Hua now. A lot of things had happened in between, but in the end we were still together. It was the same for them as well. In the end they still ended up together and went home. Bai Cixin no longer had to bear any burdens. She believed that their last moments would be very blissful. Dong Huang Baiji walked towards Yi Hua. Meanwhile, Yi Hua let go of Xianxia and Qin Yutong who were in his embrace and carried Dong Huang Baiji into his embrace. With such a thing happening, Dong Huang Baiji would definitely feel uncomfortable in her heart. Dong Huang Baiji was the empress of Voidless Realm, and there were a lot of things that were beyond her control. Dong Huang Baiji believed that right now, Dong Huang Baiji's mood was also sorrowful. Dong Huang Baiji, who was being carried in her husband's embrace, also let out a slight choking sound. If it is an evil person who came to invade us, we should just kill them right away. This is what we fear the most. Yi Hua consoled, all right, this is their own choice and it has nothing to do with you. This choice is truly painful. Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice. Yi Hua let out a sigh. Wang Debao is a decent person. I don't admire many people, but this Wang Debao, I admire that he is a man. In actuality, Yi Hua had never admired anyone before, especially humans. Wang Debao could be said to be one of the humans that Yi Hua had come into contact with. The gambling house that day, Xiao Yi, Tang Wushuang and Wang Debao. Out of the three people, Yi Hua only had a favorable impression of Wang Debao, and the people who were at the gambling house that day were all dead. Xiao Yi and his wife Nangong Sini, Tang Wushuang's entire family were exterminated by Xiao Yi, and finally Wang Debao also disappeared today. Originally, I should have been rather happy seeing my opponents die one after another. But following Wang Debao's death, all of this seemed to have become dull. This truly affected my mood. In Wang Debao's villa, Qingtun Di sat in a wheelchair, staring blankly at the KFC family bucket on the dining table. The words family bucket were so eye-catching and the leftovers were still on the dining table. Qing Tian looked at the staircase and felt that he could no longer see Feng Tian, who was in a state of isolation. Looking at the two computers at the side, it seemed like she could no longer play Legend of Mir with Wang Debao. She could no longer hear Bai Cixin scolding her husband, nor could she hear Wang Debao begging for mercy. Although a few months was not a long time, Qing Tiandi seemed to be used to this kind of life. He was used to these people gathering together and making vulgar jokes. Qing Tiandi stood up from the wheelchair, sat on the sofa and turned on the TV. This situation seemed to have returned to the past, and the scene of everyone together involuntarily appeared in his mind. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin suddenly appeared on the left. Wang Debao was begging for mercy. Xiao Yi and Qin Xuanzong appeared on the right. Both of them ignored each other. Feng Tian stood at the side with a stern face, not fitting in with the group. On the other hand, Feng Di was much more easygoing and would occasionally interject with a few words. At that time the house was very lively. As the phantom dissipated, there was no one on the sofa. Heaven and earth raising event only happened now. So it turns out that these people are all dead. He was the only one left alive. Heaven and earth raising event took out a piece of tissue and wiped the corners of his eyes. Soon after, he folded the tissue and placed it on the coffee table, then slowly stood up. I turned off the TV and the lights in the house. Everyone is gone and I'm the only one left. Am I supposed to face that kind of loneliness in the past? Although I, Qing Tiandi, am a scheming person, I am not a coward. If I didn't have a reason to kill them in the past, then I have a reason to kill them now. I, Qing Tiandi, am also a person with friends. For friends. So what if I, Qing Tiandi, go crazy once? During these few months, Qing Tiandi was actually very satisfied. Compared to his life in the past, his life had undergone a tremendous change. The entire team was also affecting Qing Tiandi's state of mind. Especially today. Feng Tian, who was autistic, chose to face death. Even Wang Debao and Bai Cixin chose to face death. Although Qing Tiandi didn't want to admit it in his heart, when Qing Tiandi saw them leaving, his heart felt very heavy. I actually unknowingly treated them as friends and not as chess pieces. Everyone is dead and Qing Tiandi has to face loneliness once again. This is something that Qing Tiandi didn't want to see. After all, who would want to be lonely after experiencing warmth? Qing Tiandi, no matter how much he planned, he didn't include himself. Was this a type of irony or was this a type of sublimation? No one knew. Xiao Bao was still using all of his strength to grab onto the door, and swish 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 sounds could be heard. Qing Tiandi took a look at the little golden retriever. This is something that Wang Debao entrusted to me. Seems like I have to entrust it to someone else too. Holding on to Xiao Bao, Qing Tiandi disappeared from the villa. In the past, this villa was also a place that was filled with laughter. But from today onwards, the lights in the villa will no longer be lit up at night, and there will no longer be any delivery boys coming to deliver pizza, KFC, McDonald's, roasted pig trotters. Qing Tiandi appeared at the Peace Association's office building. Of course, he was here to look for Jiu Yi. Jiu Yi, who was currently looking at his new phone, suddenly saw Qing Tiandi's arrival, and he immediately bent over and shouted, "Master!" Qing Tiandi placed Xiao Bao on the table. "In the future, properly look after this dog for me. It is called Xiao Bao." "Yes." Jiu Yi replied respectfully, not daring to resist at all. Xiao Bao's entire body was trembling a bit. Xiao Bao, who was standing on the table, was very afraid of strangers, and he was looking all around, seemingly looking for his master. A cosmos sack appeared on Qing Tiandi's palm and Qing Tiandi tossed it to Jiu Yi. Jiu Yi had a stupefied look on his face, not understanding what his master meant by this. "This is yours from now onwards. I am no longer your master," Qing Tiandi said faintly. Jiu Yi immediately kowtowed and shouted, "Master, did this lowly one do something wrong?" Jiu Yi felt that Qing Tiandi's attitude was too abnormal. It was as if he was saying his last words. Qing Tiandi said lightly, "This has nothing to do with you. You can deal with the matters in the future yourself." After finished speaking, Qing Tiandi disappeared. Jiu Yi had a stupefied look on his face. If not for Xiao Bao, who was on the table, he would have felt that he was hallucinating. After opening the cosmos sack, Jiu Yi was stupefied. "There are too many treasures here. I reckon that this is all of Master's belongings. What did Master go to do?" Jiu Yi carried Xiao Bao, who was on the table, into his embrace, then stood beside the French window and muttered, "Seems like I, Jiu Yi, am going to lose another master." Xiao Bao had a puzzled look on his face and he was still searching for his master's scent. And in an instant Qing Tiandi appeared outside of Voidless Realm. Looking at the few figures that were preparing to turn around, Yi Hua looked towards Qing Tiandi, who suddenly appeared with a surprised look on his face. Not only was Yi Hua surprised, the three women were also surprised. Chapter 677. Qing Tian took a look at the surroundings and saw that Wang Debao and his wife were nowhere to be seen. "Where are they?" Qing Tian asked gravely. Yi Hua took out a cigarette and lit it up. Then the three women stood further away from him. "This opponent is mine now. However, I don't understand why he appeared so carelessly." After lightly breathing out a mouthful of smoke, Yi Hua asked faintly, "Earlier you lied to 4 people, did you lie to them again this time?" Yi Hua's words made Qing Tian very angry. "That's right, I lied to those 4 old monsters, but today, I definitely didn't lie to them and I even wanted to stop them. Let me ask you, where are they?" Qing Tian shouted out angrily. "Dead." Yi Hua didn't care about Qing Tian's tone. In Yi Hua's heart, Qing Tian was a man who would do anything to harm others. But if Qing Tian came to take revenge for them, Yi Hua didn't believe it at all. To a shrewd man like Qing Tian, if he was a bit emotional, then it would basically be over. Qing Tian took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm down the anger in his heart. This man is indeed vicious. He didn't even let a couple go. He is extremely cruel. "Qing Tian, I've always wanted to meet you. Although we haven't seen each other in the past few months, we've fought against each other a few times. I have to commend you for your brain. You've made me suffer a little. But I want to tell you that if you use your brain, you'll still have a chance. If you use your strength, you won't stand a chance. I will give you a piece of advice. Go back and think about your plan. It would be best if it is a plan that I am helpless against instead of coming here to fight against me on impulse. Yihua didn't want God raising heaven and earth to die on impulse. After all, he only had God raising heaven and earth as his opponent right now. If even God raising heaven and earth were to die, who else would be able to be my opponent? Heaven and earth sneered and said, "You are very arrogant and very powerful. I Xianxia have cheated a lot of people, but I want you to know that I Xianxia also have friends. But you don't have a single friend." After hearing that, Yihua paused for a moment. "Friend? I am a supreme overlord, do I need friends? I don't need friends, I have powerful subordinates, I have a loving wife and I have cute children. My life is already perfect, what do I need friends for?" Friends? Yihua had never tasted friendship before and his concept of friends was very low as well. To the extent that he even felt that the word friend was a derogatory term, and he even felt that what kind of person was qualified to be my friend. In the whole world there is no one who is worthy to be my friend. In the whole world there is no one who is worthy to be my friend. Seeing that Yihua was hesitating, Qing Tiandi said faintly, "People like you don't understand the meaning of friendship, you only know how to trample on lives." Qing Tian, do those 4 old monsters count as your friends? Are those 4 old monsters counted as your friends? Is stabbing someone in the back what friends should do? I Qing as Tian as I said, I an overlord, I've never treated those 4 old monsters as friends. It's just a relationship of mutual benefit. Then who is your friend? Yihua asked back. I have treated them as my friends, not as tools to be used. Hearing what Qing Tian said, Yihua was a bit confused. Suddenly he thought of Wei Chong and the others. They are my subordinates, my friends, and even my relatives. Friends are not the most important, but the kind that I can trust my back with. Qing Tian, I'm actually very optimistic about you, but if you have this kind of emotion it will affect your judgment. I hope you can pull yourself together and don't force me to kill you right now. Qing Tian said coldly. Yihua's gaze turned cold and he let out a vicious aura. I hope that Qing Tian will stop while he's ahead. Qing Tian smiled coldly. Who do you think I Qing Tian am? Since I came here today I don't plan to go back alive. I don't know what I fought for in the past, but today I Qing Tian have fought for the friends in my heart, for the obsession in my heart. What do you have? I am fighting for justice. Yihua muttered. I have been fighting for justice my entire life and I have never stopped. However, Qing Tian laughed loudly. Justice? Your justice is really shallow. The 3 women stood at the back and listened to their conversation. Their view of Qing Tian had changed. In the past, Qing Tian was a sinister and cunning person, but today he seemed to have become a person with flesh and blood. After all, he knew that he would die if he came here now, but he still chose to come here like Wang Debao and the others. It seems to be for the beliefs in his heart. If a person doesn't have beliefs, what's the point of living? Perhaps this Qing Tian didn't have beliefs in the past, but now, seems like you are going to stubbornly go your own way. Yihua felt a bit disappointed. These days it's hard to find a decent opponent. Qing Tian roared and the clothes on his body instantly burst apart. That huge Qilin arm and pig trotters gave people a kind of visual impact. Especially that pair of pig trotters. The atmosphere is obviously very gloomy. Why do I want to laugh so much? Looking at Qing Tian's current state, Yihua was slightly surprised. After changing his equipment, Qing Tian seems to have become much stronger. However, if I want to keep Qing Tian alive, I'm afraid that I won't be able to keep him alive anymore. Bring out your true abilities and fight with me. Qing Tian shouted angrily, and the spiritual might that was being emitted from his 4 limbs instantly enveloped the ground, seemingly wanting to pierce through the world. Especially that pair of pig trotters, those were the feet of a prehistoric divine beast, and the aura that was being emitted from them was extremely terrifying. As Qing Tian took a step forward, and the yellow sand immediately sunk down by quite a bit, and a strange whirlpool even appeared. Today if I don't die you will die. Qing Tian pointed his finger at Yihua and said ruthlessly. Sure enough, ruthless people talk a lot too. Yihua was giving respect to his opponent. At the very least, Qing Tian was competing with him a lot. Chapter 678. Coupled with his deep gaze, the 3 women next to him were about to be charmed to death by her husband. Yihua took out the most trashy weapon from his collection. It was a double-edged saber called Dongfeng Shangfeng. He had already forgotten how it came to be. As for why he picked the weakest one, it was because if he picked a better one, the other party might not even be able to take the first hit. Yi Hua, who was holding onto 2 blades in his hands, looked even more attractive, especially when the 3 women looked at Yi Hua's back view. So tall and big. It was as if it could suppress all evil. Qing Tian was able to sense the spiritual might that Yi Hua's weapon was emitting, and he was slightly shocked in his heart. This man sure has a lot of treasures. However, I, holding the heavens and earth, can still fight you with my bare hands. Having changed his limbs, Optimus Prime had an advantage in close combat, especially with his pair of pig hooves. He was definitely an existence that could destroy the heavens. In Optimus Prime's heart, there was even a glimmer of hope for victory. Yi Hua had a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth. He was wearing a silver battle armor and holding a Dongfeng Shangfeng in his hand. His entire person looked very imposing, especially the cigarette at the corner of his mouth, which was emitting a faint fiery light. As Yi Hua inhaled, the fiery light gradually became brighter, and Yi Hua exhaled a cloud of smoke. If you are able to make my ashes fall to the ground, I will consider it your victory this time. Yi Hua said faintly. He saw that the cigarette butt had already exposed a small section of ash. As long as he waited for a minute, this section of ash would fall off. Qing Tian roared, I'm going to take your cigarette. Smash your face into pieces. Boom. In an instant, a tremendous amount of spiritual energy burst forth from the pillar, and all the yellow sand within a radius of 1 mile was blown away by this spiritual pressure. Dark clouds began to draw closer to the pillar, and the spiritual energy continued to rise. Thunder rumbled as if the god of death had descended. Yi Hua narrowed his eyes as he looked at God raising heaven and earth, and he tightened his grip on the twin blades in his hands. Ha! Die! God raising heaven and earth shouted out angrily, and the Qilin arm immediately swelled up to the size of at least a bus. Bringing along a destructive aura, the Qilin arm rushed towards Yi Hua. This punch wasn't like Feng Tian's. In terms of strength, Feng Tiandi was the strongest, and with the help of the Qilin arm, this punch had reached the peak of perfection. It was truly terrifying. Yi Hua looked at the Qilin's gigantic arm that was coming towards him faintly and took a puff of the cigarette. The ash on the cigarette had increased by quite a lot. The ground beneath Yi Hua's feet was trembling, and the immense pressure caused the corner of Yi Hua's mouth to slightly curve upwards. If this heaven and earth supporting artifact had used its brain a little, it wouldn't have ended up in this world. Yi Hua slightly extended the blade in his right hand forward. Bang! A loud sound suddenly erupted. The ground cracked and thunder rumbled. The huge cyclone whistled in all directions, and the air waves produced by the cyclone collided with Voidless Realm's barrier, causing the entire barrier to tremble violently. From this, one could see how terrifying the collision between the two was. The gigantic Qilin's arm was blocked by Yi Hua's Dongfeng Shangfeng. The comparison between the gigantic fist and the blade seemed to be a bit exaggerated. Although it was a bit exaggerated, Yi Hua did not move in the slightest. However, the amount of soot on the ground increased by quite a bit. Is this the power you're so proud of? Yi Hua laughed, and his laughter was filled with infinite ridicule. Qing Tian was a bit shocked in his heart. That punch of mine can be counted as the punch that I gave my all, but the other party actually did not have any reaction at all. How is this possible? The other party did not even move a single inch. Yi Hua's gaze looked towards the cigarette ash at the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. It should be falling soon. As long as it falls, I will win. Don't get carried away. Look at my legs. Heaven and earth, God shouted out. In actuality, the true power wasn't in the fist, but in the pair of huge pig trotters. Those were the legs of a primitive godly beast. Although Yi Hua wasn't able to unleash its full potential, it was still very powerful. If heaven and earth God were to know that Yi Hua was playing around with a primitive godly beast, he wouldn't think like this. This is so terrifying. Yi Hua looked at heaven and earth God's legs that were becoming infinitely bigger, and he couldn't help but think of an ultimate move. Heaven's legs. I wonder what would happen if heaven's legs were to step on a nail. Heaven and earth God's legs became infinitely bigger, and the aura that was emitted out from the legs of a primitive godly beast was indeed frightening. After all, there were some primitive godly beasts that even overlords didn't dare to provoke, let alone some primitive godly beasts. God knows where heaven and earth God found the legs of a primitive godly beast. The frightening aura floated in the air, and the pair of huge pig trotters that were indomitable could make people suck in a mouthful of cold air. Qing Yutong looked at the huge pig trotters blankly and mumbled, "I wonder how these huge pig trotters taste like if they are roasted." Qingye raised her hand and patted onto her little sister's head. "Qing Yutong, this isn't a pig, your taste is too heavy." "Oh, my head is going to be smacked silly by you too." Qing Yutong rubbed onto her head. "Brother-in-law likes to smack, big sister also likes to smack, why am I, Qing Yutong, so bitter?" However, big sister's words seemed to be a bit right. "My taste is indeed a bit heavy, I like to smack with brother-in-law. Although I, Qing Yutong, have not succeeded yet, but as long as I, Qing Yutong, work a bit harder, brother-in-law will definitely be willing to smack with me. When I think of brother-in-law smacking me, it feels so good." Looking at her little sister who was giggling foolishly, Qingye felt helpless. What if my little sister really becomes silly in the future? I can only let Yihua take advantage of me as long as Yihua doesn't mind. Why would Yihua mind? Right now I am unable to like my little sister. Looking at the huge pig trotters, Yihua took another puff of his cigarette. A large chunk of cigarette ash was already on the cigarette, but it still did not fall off. No matter how strong the astral winds were, that chunk of cigarette ash was still stubbornly standing, as if it would not fall off no matter what. Feeling the power coming from his legs, God supporting heaven and earth felt that this kind of feeling was incomparable. I have never experienced it before. Looking at the tiny Yihua in front of him, God supporting heaven and earth shouted out, "You will become minced meat under my feet. When fighting, talk less and do more." Yihua said faintly, "What I hate the most is talking about when fighting. In the past I have often met such people. Can't you just fight properly? Who will win and who will lose will be known very quickly. Yet you insist on saying a few words as if by doing so, you will be able to be a bit more powerful, or rather as if by saying those words, you will be able to win. This is simply stupid to the extreme." God supporting heaven and earth naturally heard what Yihua said. Without saying anything, he suddenly raised his pig trotters. And with this raise of his foot, the air seemed to have been moved, and a storm revolved around the pig trotters. A huge amount of spiritual energy spread out. It was extremely terrifying. Yihua slightly raised his head. "Sometimes I feel that being unrivaled is really lonely." "Die." God supporting heaven and earth shouted out angrily. God supporting heaven and earth's right foot landed on the ground. Before God supporting heaven and earth's right foot even landed on the ground, a layer of the ground caved in and cracks appeared on the ground. Yihua also caved in along with God supporting heaven and earth. God supporting heaven and earth seemed to have already seen Yihua being trampled to death by God supporting heaven and earth. Who asked this man to brag? What bullshit justice is this? Chapter 679. Boom boom boom. The pig trotter stomped down, causing the entire ground to shake violently. At that moment, all the creatures in the desert were scared out of their wits. Those who were closer couldn't withstand the pressure of this kick at all. They didn't even have the time to cry out in pain before their voices were shattered. The three women standing nearby were not worried at all. They knew the man's strength. This kind of battle was like a game to him. There was nothing to be afraid of. Qing Tiandi looked at his feet excitedly. He didn't move at all. How could he be alive when he stepped on him? He was probably a meat patty by now. Haha. Now do you know that my power is not something you can withstand? Qing Tiandi roared towards the sky, and the crazed expression on his face looked incomparably malevolent. Qing Tiandi felt that he had already reached the bottom, and it was impossible for Yihua to survive. Really? A familiar voice rang out, causing the excited heaven and earth to freeze. His foot had already reached the bottom. Why was he still alive? That voice had indeed come from his foot. How was this possible? However, if one were to take a closer look, Yihua was holding onto the blade with one hand and was blocking the huge hoof that was holding onto the heaven and earth. However, no matter how much strength Yihua exerted on the huge hoof that was holding onto the heaven and earth, Yihua felt that he was unable to step on the huge hoof, because he did not have the strength to do so at all. You. Qing Tian's expression changed as he felt a terrifying aura coming from beneath his feet. Yihua shouted out, "Qing Tian, you are the first person who dares to step on me." Upon sensing Yihua's anger, Qing Tian hurriedly retracted his leg. However, no matter how fast he was, how could he be faster than Yihua? Qing Tiandi saw a silver light flash past and he felt a slight pain in his right leg. A line of blood appeared on his right leg. and blood flowed out from his right leg. Then it comes off very smoothly. Boom. The huge pig trotter fell onto the yellow sand, and the blood flowed all over the ground, fusing into the yellow sand. The blood that came from the ancient divine beast attracted a large number of mutated animals, and they dared to come over without any regard for their lives, and they sucked on the pig trotter's body. They didn't even let off the pig trotter's meat, and the scene made people feel numb. A large pig trotter was instantly gnawed into bones. Impossible. How could you defeat a primeval divine beast? Impossible. Qing Tian didn't care about the broken leg. Instead he glared at Yi Hua and questioned. Yi Hua silently inhaled a mouthful of smoke. The ash on the cigarette was already as long as a fingernail, and it was a bit bent, seemingly about to fall off at any moment. In your heart, is an ancient divine beast a very powerful species? Yi Hua asked back. Isn't it? Yi Hua sneered, seemingly mocking Qing Tian's ignorance. Young man, you are too inexperienced. I shall let you see what a primordial divine beast is. Yi Hua could be seen stretching out his index finger, and a circular black hole appeared in the air. Looking at what Yi Hua is planning to do. However, there seemed to be a strange sound coming from within the black hole, and suddenly, a silvery white figure flew out from the black hole. Woo woo woo, this was the unique cry of a husky. That's right, this is Yun Lang, the one that Yi Hua caught to make up the numbers. Just that, the way in which Yi Hua appeared was a bit embarrassing. Seems like he was kicked out by Yi Zizi. Yun Lang flipped over and shook off the sand on his body. Then he licked his lips. Yi Hua looked at Yun Lang and his complexion became a little bad. The corner of Qing Tian's mouth twitched. This man dared to insult him with a husky. Unforgivable. Xianxia and the others covered their mouths and laughed lightly. My husband wanted to act cool, but in the end this Yun Lang was actually kicked out by Yi Zizi. Afterward, Yun Lang rolled on the ground and even wagged his tail, looking as if he didn't know anything. Yi Hua really wanted to stew Yun Lang during the new year. A living ancient divine beast actually turned into a dog. Did your dignity get eaten by yourself? Qing Tian suddenly shouted out loudly, is this your so-called ancient divine beast? I didn't expect that you are such a humorous person. A husky can also be called an ancient divine beast. I'm going to die from laughter. Yun Lang was originally sticking out his tongue at Yi Hua, but after hearing Qing Tian's words he seemed to be a bit unhappy, and his dog head slowly looked towards the tall and big Qing Tian. If the Yun Lang just now was a husky, then right now, that unique gaze of his looked a bit like that of a wolf. Furthermore, it is the kind of wolf that is very handsome. Just a single gaze of his would be able to seduce you. Woo woo woo, Yun Lang let out a long howl. After howling he suddenly felt that something was wrong. This is something that dogs love to do. Roar. Yun Lang let out a new howl. This howl actually produced a sonic boom and it attacked towards Qing Tian. Meanwhile, Qing Tian's expression sunk and he placed both of his hands on his chest. However, how could he, who only had one leg, withstand the attack of an ancient divine beast, and his entire body fell backwards. Qing Tian's heart was in turmoil. I actually got drunk by a husky. How is this possible? I am just a husky. A husky that demolishes houses. Yun Lang's body was gradually becoming bigger, and the fur on his body was like steel spikes, and his terrifying fangs were exposed to the air. This is a true ancient divine beast. Qing Tian looked at the enlarged version of the husky blankly, and his heart seemed to be a bit unable to withstand such a blow. How did the husky turn into an ancient divine beast, and with just a howl he actually managed to blow me down? Yun Lang's gaze was fierce as he let out a low howl. His body slightly leaned downwards and he was prepared to pounce onto Yi Hua at any moment. Yi Hua took another puff of his cigarette and half of the cigarette ash had already formed, but it had yet to fall onto the ground. This Yun Lang's entrance is a bit weak, but what he did just now still gave me face and it can be considered as making up for my mistake. Impossible. Why would an ancient divine beast listen to your orders? Qing Tian couldn't understand. Ancient divine beasts are the highest grade spiritual creatures. Why would they listen to a human's orders? This is something that has never happened before. There are still a lot of things that you don't know. No. Qing Tian let out a miserable howl, and his body instantly bounced up, and his remaining left leg kicked towards Yi Hua's side. Yi Hua had already kept his dual blades, and the armor that he was wearing on his body had also been kept. These things are really unnecessary. I only wanted to act cool just now and let my wife and sister-in-law worship me. As for the current situation of the battle, Yi Hua didn't need to worry about it anymore. Because Yun Lang had already made his move. As an ancient divine beast, Yun Lang's explosive power was very terrifying, and his biting ability was also top-notch. Looking at that big pig trotter, Yun Lang unconsciously swallowed his saliva, and without thinking too much he directly bit onto that pig trotter. When Qing Tian saw that the ancient divine beast was actually rushing towards his leg, a joyous expression appeared on his face. No matter what, my leg is also an ancient divine beast, it shouldn't be hard for me to kick it to death, right? The idea is good but the reality is cruel. Chapter 680. In actuality, the leg of a prehistoric godly beast is very nutritious. Qing Tian, who had lost both of his legs, fell from the sky and laid on the yellow sand with a dazed expression. My strongest trump card was actually broken by someone. It wasn't a person. It was a husky. This is impossible. Yun Lang was still hugging onto the prehistoric godly beast's meat and chewing on it. So fragrant. Yi Hua slowly walked towards Qing Tian's side and said faintly, "Actually, you didn't do anything wrong. If I had to point out a mistake, then it would be choosing to become my enemy." Qing Tian laughed. "So you are actually such a powerful person. I have underestimated you." "A lot of people underestimated me. That's because I am low-key and never flaunt myself." Yi Hua felt that he was low-key enough. "My wives are obviously very beautiful. If I were to bring them out, I would definitely be envied by others. Seems like I have to bring them out for a walk in the future." Qing Tian sighed lightly. "Actually, this kind of ending is really good. Living alone is really boring." If it was the Yi Hua in the past, he would definitely deny this sentence. How can living alone be lonely? Didn't I, the Supreme Overlord, get used to living alone in the past? However, the current Yi Hua agreed with this sentence because with a wife and children, only those who have experienced such a family would know how terrifying that kind of loneliness is, to the point that it can even torture someone to death. If Yi Hua were to return to his previous life, he would definitely not be able to do it. He would only become even more berserk and become a homicidal maniac. And loneliness is very scary. Yi Hua said faintly. Qing Tian looked towards Yi Hua. "I feel that we should be the same kind of people." "Perhaps." Yi Hua said faintly. "Send me away. I am tired after so many years. I need to rest." Qing Tian said faintly. "I don't want to continue fighting anymore. I am too tired. I don't even know why I have been living for so many years and I only found out now, although it is a bit late." Yi Hua lightly inhaled a mouthful of smoke and the ash finally fell to the ground. Looking at Yi Hua's ash falling to the ground, Qing Tian laughed lightly. "I won." Yi Hua didn't say anything and turned around to leave, and the ash turned into blue starlight in the sky and landed on Qing Tian's body. Qing Tian slowly closed his eyes and murmured, "Debao, let your wife light a family bucket when we attack Sand City tonight." The towering sky above the yellow sand turned into blue stars, drifting along with the wind and merging with the blue sky. Yi Hua took a deep breath. Today's matter didn't make me happy at all. Why would I be unhappy? Is it because all of us died? Or could it be that I don't want them to die? When did I become like this? I look like a sissy. I often scolded Xianxia and the others for being indecisive and indecisive. Today my mental state is also lacking. Looking at Yun Lang, who was at the side, who was gnawing on a bone, Yi Hua said faintly, "After you finish eating we will head back." Woof, Imperial Translation. "Yes, Your Honor." With a grave look on his face, Yi Hua walked into Voidless Realm. The three women took a look at each other. Yi Hua is a bit strange. Is he unhappy? Logically speaking, the death of an opponent like Qing Tian should be something to be happy about. But what's going on with Yi Hua? You all should go and take a look at brother-in-law. Don't get depressed. Qing Yutong chose to leave first and let her big sister and big sister Baiji go and comfort brother-in-law. When brother-in-law is free, I will properly comfort brother-in-law. I guarantee that every part of brother-in-law's body will feel comfortable. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji naturally had to go and take a look at their husband. It was very rare to see their husband so worried. Previously, he seemed to have been worried about his aunt's matter for a few days. The two wives arrived at the palace's backyard. Yi Hua sat on a rocking chair and lightly rocked back and forth. With a cigarette between his fingers, Yi Hua looked at Voidless Realm's sky. In actuality, Yi Hua was thinking, other than those old men, Qing Tian also caused me to suffer a loss. If not for the appearance of soul separation, it would have been very hard for Voidless Realm's image to be changed. It would also be impossible for me to send my own people to kill people and then put on a show. Although the end result would still be the same, the appearance of soul separation was heaven's will, and the decision to kill people at the start was also her own decision. What does that have to do with me? I just made use of her a little. That Qing Tian used the heads of 300,000 people to frame me. From this, it could be seen how vicious this person is. However, today he was willing to die for his friends. Yihua couldn't figure out what exactly Qing Tian was thinking. I was originally still thinking about how you are going to play this game of chess. Yet, I didn't expect that you would actually destroy this game of chess. And furthermore, you did it when I was the happiest. Thinking up to here, Yihua's brows wrinkled. Motherf asterisk cur. Yihua shouted out gravely. This Qing Tian is using his death to make me unhappy. What a ruthless man. How terrifying. Yihua, you are speaking vulgarities again. Qingye directly sat on her husband's thigh, then snuggled into his embrace. The Empress was the same as well. The two women seemed to be planning to use a woman's gentleness to make their husband feel at ease. Obsession sure is scary. Yihua said faintly. Qingye said tenderly, Yihua, didn't you always say that the choice is chosen by others? Their choice made me very disappointed and I suddenly feel a bit disappointed. Donghuang Baiji kissed onto Yihua's cheek. Don't you still have us? Don't you still have the children and a group of loyal subordinates? Yihua laughed. That's right, I still have you guys. We are a big family. Big family. The two women said tenderly. They understood what Yihua meant by big family. Yihua had included all of his subordinates into his family. In actuality, every time Yihua hosted a gathering, it could be seen that he really enjoyed the time he spent with his subordinates. As a leader, Yihua was a bit fierce, but as a friend, Yihua didn't put on any airs. Let's go shopping. It has been a long time since I accompanied you guys out for a walk. Bring Ali and Yen along. Yihua said. Sometimes I still have to return to my normal life. I can't continue living like this forever. Qingye pouted her small mouth and said, You are still talking about going shopping? Every time I ask you to accompany us to go shopping, what do you say to me? That's right, it's as if accompanying us to go shopping is very embarrassing. Donghuang Baiji had an unwilling look on her face. The Empress is very cute. Yihua didn't blame them. In the past when they asked me to go shopping I would always reject them. What's the point of going shopping for something as boring as going shopping? I might as well stay at home and watch Calabash Brothers save Grandpa.